This is it.
Let's do it.
Well, everybody has an opinion. They have their thoughts and reasons as to why one fighter will beat another fighter. And no more intense than in this rematch between Holyfield and Lewis. Let's take a sampling of the people who cover the sport, work in the sport, and know the sport and how they see this fight unfolding.
The first time I liked Lewis because I picked Lennox Lewis in the first fight because he was bigger and I thought his style would be a problem. He'd be able to use his size and his style with Holyfield. But this time, believe it or not, I'm going to take Holyfield. I believe in Crusades too. And I believe that he's better. If he's not shot, I hate to hedge my bet, but if he's not just an old man, he's got something left. And I think he does. I think he's mentally going to be prepared where he wasn't prepared the first time.
I think the end result is that we'll see one final championship effort out of Evander Holyfield, and you'll see Lennox Lewis trying to do much of what he did the last time, fight a smart fight, but outthinking himself again, and in the end, losing to Holyfield possibly by a knockout.
Some of us have been embarrassed many, many times by Evander, those of us in the media, because we pick against him, and he's never more dangerous than when he has something to prove and the second time around, and this is the second time around. So in that sense, I wouldn't be shocked if he pulls off a miracle. But I have to think that this time, Lennox has the confidence, knows he can handle it, and I think Lennox will be a little more aggressive and very possibly with the right hand take Evander Holyfield out.
Holyfield by knockout. That's just what I believe. He's always won the rematches. He's 36, almost 37. There's questions about his age. There's questions, can he do it one more time? But until such time as someone proves he can't, I believe he'll win.
I think this doesn't go to a decision. A stoppage, a knockout. I just think these guys are throwing respect out the window, and it is going to be a slugfest.
On November 13th, it will be an irresistible force against an immovable object, and something has got to give, and give it will, on November 13th in Las Vegas, Nevada.
You've heard the predictions, you've heard from all the key players, and we've brought you an in-depth strategy. We feel that you're set for the rematch between Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis. One final piece, though. You need to be a part of it. See it live on pay-per-view from Las Vegas, Nevada, Saturday, November the 13th, the rematch, Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis. Contact your pay-per-view provider for ordering information. Can Holyfield get inside? Will Lewis be able to land the big right hand? What better way to end the millennium than with a heavyweight championship fight? It should be a war. For our entire crew, I'm Bob Papa. Thanks for watching, everyone.
We are live from the Thomas & Mack Center here in Las Vegas, Nevada, where later this evening we'll present Holyfield versus Lewis. Our card begins with a heavyweight bout featuring Josue Blocus taking on Clarence Goins. Next up, it'll be super lightweight champion Sharmba Mitchell, who will be taking on Elio Ortiz. And that'll be followed by a cruiserweight championship featuring Fabrice Tiozzo defending his title against Ken Murphy. And then the main event, the continuation of Holyfield versus Lewis as these two champions come together once again in their quest to unify the heavyweight crown. Holyfield versus Lewis is being brought to you by Brewery Fresh Budweiser, the undisputed, undefeated king of beers. This Bud's for you. Excite.com. Tape up, weigh in, and log on. Caesar's Palace, the home of champions. Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino, the most exciting destination in Las Vegas. And by TVKO, pay-per-view entertainment from HBO. As we welcome you to the Thomas & Mack Center, which will have a sellout crowd on hand to see Holyfield and Lewis complete what is definitely unfinished business from their March 13th meeting, and that is to crown an undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. And this is the ring in which the two combatants will attempt to accomplish this objective in what many hope will be a much more exciting and a much fairer fashion than before. And good evening, everyone. I'm James Brown, happy to be alongside my partner once again, Roy Jones, the light heavyweight champion of the world. Good to be with you again, buddy.
Thank you, James. It's good to be with you also.
You know, you and I were there on March 13th when these two fought the first fight, and let's be honest, it was not a good fight and certainly a very controversial one in terms of the decision. What's the likely scenario tonight, Roy?
Well, the likely scenario tonight is that that won't happen because the Nevada Athletic Commission has made changes. People have made changes. The fighters have made changes. And I think everybody wants to clean that up. Everybody wants to make up for the mistake that was made on March 13th. So I think tonight we're in for a much, much better night.
And you've always called it like you see it. You expect the two fighters to give a better account of themselves as well?
Most definitely. Both fighters are coming in here tonight to prove that they were not exactly where they wanted to be on March 13th, but tonight they will be there. So I look for a much better effort from Evander Holyfield, and I look for a little bit better effort from Lennox Lewis also.
I know I am, as well as the viewers, looking forward to your insight and candor as you always give us, Roy.
Thank you.
All right, now let's take you downstairs ringside to the guys who will be calling the action for tonight and all the fights tonight. Big George Foreman, Larry Merchant, and our anchor, Jim Lampley.
All right, thank you very much, James Brown. Third time this year that we've gotten ready, this group, for what might be an earth-shakingly historic event in the sport of boxing. Let's hope the third time is the charm. Larry Merchant, Roy, and James have already touched on some of the differences between March 13 and tonight. What, in your view, are the most essential differences?
First, that we're going from a showdown to a show us. Show us that you can get it right this time. New York was all feverish anticipation for the first fight. Las Vegas is a kind of lukewarm, but getting a little warmer curiosity about the rematch, lowered expectations. Secondly, what we have here is a big difference in the rematch being called by me a do-over. As kids, we called something you did again and tried to get right a do-over. And happily for the boxing fans, do-overs help the boxing fan because usually they are better, more active, more decisive, and sometimes more dramatic. That is raising the expectations. And finally, as Roy alluded to, the Nevada State Athletic Commission has started a process that is seizing back some of the power that had been ceded to these mobs that have been running boxing, official sanctioning mobs. And they have appointed all three judges. As it happens, however, Jim, they are the usual local suspects this time.
Well, we've seen them before. We know their work. Maybe they won't be necessary. Of course, the title at stake, heavyweight champion in the world, I can lick anybody in the room, is a title which was twice held by George Foreman in his extended and continuing youth. George, we'll talk later about Evander Holyfield and what he has to do tonight to make it different from March 13. Before the first fight in New York, there were questions about Lennox Lewis's fortitude, about his ability to show up for a big event like that, about whether he could master a well-known American fighter, one with greatness in his career, Evander Holyfield. Did Lennox answer all those questions? And if so, what does that give him going into this fight?
He answered all the above. You know, he did it very good, as a matter of fact. He didn't. Now, this time, all he needs to do is show up, as Larry said, and do again. do all over again. And I think he's capable, and he's proven it once. He can prove it again.
So Lennox's job is just to be himself the way he was March
Yes,
13th.
don't get any more sophisticated than he was the first time, and go out and do the same thing. That's his job.
Well, we'll see if Lewis can do that later on tonight. No doubt he'll be facing a slightly different challenge, as you can't expect Holyfield to be exactly the same. And we're going to start the...
Lampley, so a very methodical, precise, and efficient performance by Fabrice Tiozzo in dispatching of Ken Murphy as he improves his record now, Fabrice Tiozzo that is, to 41-1. Coming up next, it'll be our main event, the rematch, Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis says that he will not need the judges this time. He will exact justice on his own by way of his power punches. As you take a look at Evander Holyfield limbering up, loosening up, making certain that leg cramps will not be an issue in this one. As you heard him tell Nick Charles earlier, he feels good, he feels healthy. So indeed, he should be able to dip and do his job nicely to try to get inside, as he indicated he will have to do today in following his game plan. Well, folks, as our main event approaches, warm up your fingers to cast your round-by-round online scoring for a Holyfield versus Lewis by logging on to sports.excite.com. Now, following the main event, we'll provide the results and see how your scorecards compare to tonight's official judges. And keep in mind that while online, you can also obtain information about Holyfield versus Lewis, as well as watch the post-fight press conference. Back here now with Roy Jones Jr. And Roy, I'm reminded when we were talking about the first matchup between Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis, you were particularly concerned that Holyfield predicted a third-round knockout. Why did that bother you?
Well, that bothered me mainly because it's unlike Holyfield to make a big prediction like that. That puts a lot of pressure on him and on his performance. When you go out and predict that you're going to do something to a guy in 3 rounds, people are looking for that happening. If that doesn't happen, it's like, what are you going to do then? But the one interesting thing about it is that Lennox Lewis was also wondering, well, is it going to happen? So that arouses a lot of questions in my mind about Lennox's ability to believe in himself.
You also talk very candidly because Holyfield had predicted a third-round knockout. He didn't have a backup plan, and Holyfield admitted as much as well. Is there a backup plan in place tonight?
There has to be a backup plan tonight. The main difference in this fight should be the fact that there's a backup plan. That's what should make the fight different. Even if he doesn't win it, that should make this fight a lot different than the first one because he should have a backup plan. His plan in the first fight was just to knock the man out in round 3. If that didn't happen, what happened? What after that? I mean, he said he was led by the Holy Spirit or whatever, but whatever led him misled him because he should never predict a third-round knockout. I think only God can make predictions. You can't predict nothing. You don't know what God has in store for you. And this time, he's going to sit back and wait to see what God has in store for him.
And Holyfield did admit that it was his pride in reacting angrily to the fact that Lennox Lewis was calling him a hypocrite because he wasn't walking properly, if you will, or righteously. So, in fact, he got in the way of the Holy Spirit that time. Finally, I know Emmanuel Stewart would love to see Lennox Lewis be a lot more aggressive, be like a caged tiger because he possesses the power and ability to walk over Evander Holyfield. Do you think Lewis will display that tonight?
I think he'll try to display that, but that's one thing that's going to be very touchy tonight. He has the power, the size, the ability to try to walk over Holyfield, but when a guy tries to walk over Holyfield, it's when Holyfield is most dangerous. And Lennox Lewis does have a suspect chin. Evander is one of the best punchers, pound for pound, to me, that ever been in the heavyweight division. Therefore, you'd have to be very suspect of his chin if he tries to do that.
All right, I know you have a lot of passion and love for the fight game. You're still very much involved and extremely good, but you don't possess any more passion for the fight game than our guy, Nick Charles. Let's check in with Nick.
Okay, there's not a ripple of controversy so far for this one, as everybody's spoken of, and as Evander Holyfield told us earlier, no cramps, no stomach ache, no lethargy. He's fit and ready to go. As for the cup that Lennox Lewis wore the first time, which the Holyfield camp thought was up to his breast and took away any body shot target for Holyfield, Mark Ratner, the executive director of the Nevada Athletic Commission, told me this one that Lewis is wearing tonight is, quote, a beautiful cup. It's conventional. It's actually, the waistband is below the belt, so no problem there. As for Lewis's camp's concern, though, about Evander Holyfield's headbutting in the past, Mitch Halpern, the referee, told me he is taking no preconceived notions into this ring with these two men. So they start, quote, with a clean slate. But right now, moments away from the opening bell, both men sitting in their locker room, I can tell you this. Everybody has their game face on. Jim Thomas, Holyfield's chief advisor, told me if President Clinton came to the door right now, he wouldn't get in. Back to you, JB.
Well, Nick, that is awfully good to hear, because keep in mind, folks, that the first time that Holyfield and Lewis met back on March 13th, it was indeed a much anticipated affair, as the two respective champions were looking to unify the heavyweight titles for the first time in 7 years. Fight fans were intrigued by the size, reach, and knockout power of the bigger, younger Lennox Lewis, while Holyfield, the classic warrior, built his reputation by defying the odds and, as I mentioned to Roy just a minute ago, guaranteeing a third-round knockout. Well, that fight did not live up to its hype or expectations and ended with one of the most controversial draw decisions ever. That's something both fighters promise will not be the case this time. March 13th, 1999, the night Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis would unify the heavyweight championship for the first time in 7 years. Not since Ali Frazier I had Madison Square Garden played host to a heavyweight title fight of this magnitude.
Now we're ready for the bout. Can it live up to its build-up?
Lewis, in the biggest fight of his often criticized career, started strong.
And he pinches against the ropes as Lewis lands a right hand. Bigger man, George. Bigger punch.
I felt that I was well in control of the fight. Like I said, I kept him at bay with the jab. I threw more punches than him. He had no answer for Lennox Lewis in this fight.
Holyfield threw only 24 total punches in the first 2 rounds, but boldly stood by his prediction of a third-round stoppage.
This round he go out, y'all. He out of here.
Holyfield landed a left hook inside and lands a right hand, and Lewis is stunned. Evander attacking, trying to fulfill the prophecy.
I hit him with a good shot, but it didn't break him down enough. And it was almost like it's a victory for him to get past 30. He was happy, and I was kind of angry with myself.
Using his 6-inch reach advantage, Lewis regained control of the fight.
Uppercut, uppercut, right hand. Holyfield stunned in the middle of the ring.
The overwhelming belief among the Madison Square Garden crowd and the millions viewing worldwide was that Lewis had claimed the victory. But when the cards were tallied, the impossible became reality.
The decision is even, a draw. Lennox Lewis has just been robbed of the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world.
8 months since the controversial draw comes the rematch, and at stake once again the undisputed heavyweight championship. Evander Holyfield thrives on rematches. In 1993, he avenged the loss to Riddick Bowe from the year before.
For the second year in a row, they fought the fight of the year.
And 2 years ago, Holyfield floored then-champion Michael Moorer 4 times as payback for the 1994 meeting won by Moorer.
I want to win this fight because I learned from my mistakes, and I'm willing to do what's necessary to be victorious in the fight.
Lennox Lewis is looking for redemption. This rematch offers him a chance to earn the belts the judges denied him in their first fight.
Lennox Lewis is going to be undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I've been in the ring with him already, so I know what it takes to beat him. I know what I need to work on to beat him, and that's what I'm going to do.
Both fighters have had plenty of time to contemplate March 13th and why tonight will bring a different result.
Evander Holyfield has no answer for me. He had no answer for me in the first fight. He doesn't know what to do against a boxer like me.
That man don't realize that he had the golden opportunity to be the heavyweight champ of the world. But because he didn't give his own, he gets a draw. Now he's complaining about they should have gave me. We're not in the business where they give you anything. It's where you take.
With the undisputed heavyweight championship on the line, can Evander Holyfield yet again rise to the occasion when it matters the most? Or will Lennox Lewis, with his size and reach advantage, finally earn his due? The meeting between Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis last March was to bring resolution to the heavyweight division. As we all know by now, it only brought more confusion. Hopefully, after tonight, one of the sport's worst decisions can be put to rest as champions Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis begin the 13th round in their quest to unify the heavyweight division. Holyfield versus Lewis is being brought to you by Brewery Fresh Budweiser, the undisputed, undefeated king of beers. This Bud's for you. And TVKO, pay-per-view entertainment from HBO. Tonight's heavyweight championship represents an opportunity to restore some semblance of credibility to a sport badly in need of it in light of some uninspiring, controversial fights, and now recently, federal indictments against the International Boxing Federation for bribery, extortion, and racketeering. Both fighters recognize they carry the weight of the sport on their backs and promise a more aggressive, action-packed fight with a decisive ending. Fans and stars alike hope that this is the case. In attendance tonight, Peter Boyle, Everyone Loves Raymond, and a number of other folks, Dan Cortez, Marky Mark, Eddie Murphy is on hand, a big fight fan, and he has been one a long time, and he is here as well with Billy Crystal. I think Billy Crystal loves all kinds of sports. And, of course, Sarah Jessica Parker. Andre Agassi is also here as well with Steffi Graf. And, folks, we are here as well. Good evening once again, everyone. I'm James Brown, along with the man considered to be the best pound-for-pound boxer in the world, and thus far, the only undisputed champion in all of boxing, Roy Jones. And Roy, we've talked so much about what we expect to see. Let's talk specifics now. Evander Holyfield had a difficult time getting inside of that jab of Lennox Lewis the last time. What can he do to be effective getting inside tonight?
First thing he has to do, JB, is be more elusive, move side to side when he goes in. Don't go straight at Lennox. He has a good long jab. Go to the left or to the right of it with his head. That way he can get closer to Lennox. Punish his body and make Lennox lower himself to Evander's level, to Evander's eye level.
Now, interestingly, with the reach advantage that Lennox Lewis possesses, interestingly, Lewis wants to get a little closer so he can press the action against Evander Holyfield. Again, is it in Lewis's heart and style to be aggressive?
It's not in his style, and I don't think it's in his heart either. However, that's why I think Evander has a slight chance in this fight, although he didn't do too well in the first fight. When Lennox when his aggressive style that he wants to apply tonight starts to come in effect, it's going to make Holyfield want to say, okay, now I can land this big punch. That's going to make a sparkle go off of Evander's eyes. He's going to say, here's my chance to try, if I ever have a chance, here's that one time to pull off another big upset. And that's what he's going to be waiting for.
Let me throw one more your way. Some have said because Evander Holyfield is coming off of two poor performances, Vaughn Bean and, of course, the last Lewis affair, maybe he has, in fact, gotten old very fast. Is he too old, or does he have another great fight in him?
There is a possibility, but I doubt it. The thing about Evander is, against Vaughn Bean and the first Lennox Lewis fight, Evander had nothing to prove. That's not when we see Evander at his best. We see Evander at his best when he has a point to prove. Evander Holyfield really fought 2. Mike Tyson 1 and 2. So anytime he has a point to prove, Evander shows up. If there's ever a time for him to show up, and this may be the time that he doesn't, you never know because he is 37 years old, but if there's a time for Evander to show up, it will be tonight.
All right, and there is a point to prove tonight. And with more on that, let's take you back downstairs once again to our anchor, Jim Lampley.
All right, thank you, James Brown. We're almost ready to go. George Foreman, earlier this evening, we spoke about Lewis's challenge here, and you said Lewis just has to be himself and do what he did on March 13th. So what can Evander do to make it different?
Evander's got to let the fight come to him. Then get whatever Lennox Lewis extend out there. Don't go reaching for something. Let it come to him. Then when he comes to him, just sink down low and whip that body, and the head punches will come along. He can do it. He can do it.
Yes, he's done it before against other champions equally as good as Lewis. Larry Merchant? You heard James Brown mention the federal indictments against one of the 3 so-called governing bodies whose belts are at stake here tonight. The difficulties involved in the disappointing fights March 13, disappointment of Trinidad, De La Hoya, another Mike Tyson debacle, various other elements of bad publicity. So is the sport's reputation once again at stake? Is it true that boxing needs a big performance from Evander and Lennox tonight?
For the occasional fan who is attracted to these kinds of mega events, yes, 1,000 times yes. But for the true believers, even if we take another one on the chin and need smelling salts, we're not going to retire. Because one of the things we've discovered about boxing fans during all of these troubles is that they're really as resilient and as tough as Evander Holyfield. They've been battered by scandals, they've been decked by disappointments, but they keep getting up, keep coming back for more. Because even though there's nothing worse than boxing when it's bad, there's nothing better when it's good. Let's hope it's good tonight.
All right, well said. So now, with the highest of hopes, but with only the most realistic of expectations, let's try this one more time. For the so-called undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, Lennox Lewis against Evander Holyfield, here's the tale of the tape. And if you've been with us for the past 8 months, indeed, if you're one of those who waited years for this to happen, you've memorized a lot of these numbers. 3-year age advantage for Lewis. 2.5 inches in height. It looks like more when they get into the ring. 217 and 242 as opposed to 215 and 246 back on March 13 again. Most people believe 242 is a very good sign for Lennox Lewis. And the reach advantage, 6.5 inches. Punch that numbers, Larry.
From the first fight, and these numbers tell it all, Lewis landing almost 3 times as many punches as Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield's trainers say he has to throw twice as many punches in this fight as he did in that fight. Can he sustain that sort of a pace? Same story with the jabs, although Holyfield has told some friends he intends to try to out-jab the jabber in this fight.
Rules of the bout with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
The Lennox Lewis Evander Holyfield fight is scheduled for 12 rounds using the unified rules of the Association of Boxing Commissions. There is no standing 8 count, no 3 knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight, and you cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the 12th and final round. Jim.
All right, Harold Letterman. And of course, diplomatic negotiations have surrounded all the procedural elements of this fight, just as they did prior to their meeting on March 13. Lennox Lewis agreed to enter the ring first and be introduced first. And now Lewis will begin his walk-in, preceded by his brother and chess partner Dennis. Former fighter Harold Knight, a key Lewis lieutenant. There's Lennox.
You have to move forward. You have to move forward.
We haven't mentioned the rematches of Lennox Lewis because he had only lost 1 fight, and he won the rematch.
Unmemorable because the rematch was the bizarre affair in which Oliver McCall wept in the ring, walked around instead of trying to throw punches at Lewis, and ultimately saw referee Mills Lane bring the sad affair to a close.
Never received much recognition for his accomplishments in the U.S. Won a silver and a gold medal in Olympics. Lost 1 fight in 10 years as a professional. But a crowd displeasing style has worked against him in public recognition.
If you look carefully at Lennox Lewis and you conclude that his face shows you nothing, then you are in good and populous company. He labors to project an image of unshakable calm and usually succeeds.
There are some 6,500 British fans here. I find that extraordinary, amazing. 6,500 people flew over 5,000 miles to see this man fight and try to win all the heavyweight titles for the first time in this century for a Brit.
And this despite the fact that through much of his career, he was at best the second most beloved heavyweight in Great Britain, overshadowed by the far less competent Frank Bruno. But there is the record for Lewis, 34 wins, the draw in New York, the one loss to Oliver McCall, later avenged. Twice he has won heavyweight titles.
You're looking at one of the greatest fighters this country has ever produced. Great, great warrior. I doubt there's been another heavyweight who has been in as many hard, tough, killer fights, absorbed as much punishment, and kept coming back for more.
And the music with which Evander enters the ring is recorded under the label of his own record company, Real Deal Records. Smile creases the face of Holyfield. Nothing yet quite like the rapture with which we've seen him enter the ring for some of his big occasions.
The question, of course, reverts to an old saying, a great fighter, great champion always has one more great fight in him. Has Evander Holyfield already had that and other one more great fights?
Evander Holyfield's extraordinary boxing record, 36 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw, 25 KOs, 2 of the losses to Riddick Bowe, 1 to Michael Moorer, and of course the draw last March 13. Now let's go to ring announcer Jimmy Lennon Jr. to step it up one more level.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you, and we welcome you to the Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada, for the featured bout of the evening as we join together to witness the last mega fight of the 20th century. It is all brought to you by Don King Productions in association with Panics of the U.S., Main Events, Caesar's Palace, the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino, TVKO, and Budweiser, the undisputed, undefeated king of beers. This bout coming away is sanctioned by the World Boxing Association, President Gilberto Mendoza, Supervisor Jimmy Benz, the World Boxing Council, President Jose Sulaiman, Supervisor Edmund Lipinski, the International Boxing Federation President Robert Lee Sr., Supervisor Walter Stone, and the Nevada State Athletic Commission. The chairman is Dr. Elias Ghanem, commissioners Amy Ayub, Glenn Carano, Lorenzo Fertitta, Dr. Luther Mack with the executive director, Mark Ratner. Introducing to you our physicians at ringside, we have doctors Flip Omansky, Margaret Goodman, Al Cabana, and James Game. Introducing our timekeepers and also keeping count of the knockdowns, we have Al Bisick and Jane Broadfoot. Introducing to you our judges, all three from Las Vegas, Nevada, Chuck Jumpa, Bill Graham, and Jerry Roth. Introducing the third man of the ring, working in this, his 60th world title bout, Mitch Halpern. All right, fans, here we go with the rematch we've all been waiting for. And now, ladies and gentlemen in attendance and boxing fans joining us around the world, live from Las Vegas, it's time for the main event of the evening. 12 rounds of boxing for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Introducing to you first the title holder on my right, fighting out of the red corner, wearing purple trunks with white and red trim, representing his hometown of Atlanta, Georgia. He weighed in at 217 pounds, and with a record of 36 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw, he has 25 wins coming by way of knockout. here is the former undisputed cruiserweight world champion, the former undisputed heavyweight world champion, and the current WBA and IBF heavyweight champion of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome boxing's proud warrior, introducing Evander, the real deal Holyfield. And his opponent across the ring, the other title holder on my left, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing white trunks with red trim, the big man from London, England. He weighed in at 242 pounds. The 1988 Olympic gold medalist has a professional record of 34 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, with 27 big knockouts to his credit. Tonight, attempting to become the first British heavyweight in 100 years to capture the undisputed title, here is the hard-hitting and current WBC heavyweight champion of the world, introducing Lennox Lewis. Once again, Mitch Halpern is our referee in charge.
All right, gentlemen, this will be clean. Protect yourself at all times. Obey my commands at all times. Any questions? Touch gloves. Good luck. Let's go. Touch gloves. Where's your mouthpiece?
Are we about to see the sad death of a great king, or yet another of his resurrections?
It was a late arriving crowd, but the rafters are now packed. 19,000 plus in the Thomas and Mack Center. An audience around the world hoping and praying, as they did back in March, for a conclusive definition of the identity of the heavyweight champ. And as they clear Lewis's corner and the British fans begin already to chant soccer style, it seems to be a crowd almost evenly distributed in its passion. Just about half for Lewis and half for Holyfield. We should have drama tonight.
Already you can see Holyfield trying to get closer to Lewis right from the get-go.
Now he's beat him to the jab. Holyfield has said he would try to establish the left jab. He did.
And Lewis fires a rare left hook. Lewis beginning already to paw a little bit with the jab, trying to establish the range between himself and Holyfield.
Now, if Evander want to really land that left jab, he's got to make contact with Lewis's left foot, and then as soon as he make contact, jabbed in. If he's not made contact, don't try it.
Where is the ideal range for Evander, George? Is it right up in Lennox's chest, or is it a medium zone?
You got to be a medium. You're right there. Touch his foot and don't go any closer because you don't want him backing away. Just stay that distance. Lennox got to make sure he keeps him on the outside. Evander is bobbing, but he's not weaving. He's going to one side, and he stays there.
Holyfield misses with a left hook. Lewis counters over the top with the right hand. Evander trying to project more sheer energy than was the case in New York. And whacking away at Lewis on the inside. Something he didn't get many chances to do in Madison Square Garden.
Now for Evander, all of these close range contacts he's making is better for him. You don't want to keep this fight at long reach.
Evander pounds to the body as Lewis is backed up into a corner already. Halpern has had to work a lot harder in round 1 here than he did in 12 rounds of Trinidad De La Hoya.
Break.
Certainly Holyfield is working harder in this first round than he did in the last one.
You know, he was able to get in one good left jab, and that gives him confidence. You can't start reaching at this point. You got to let the fight come to you if you're Evander Holyfield.
And Holyfield reached with the right hand, and Lewis touched him up inside with a little right uppercut as the result. But already, Don Turner is yelling at Evander from his corner. He doesn't want to fight. Yelling at Evander to try to let him know that he thinks Lewis is timid and that Evander can take command.
Evander did something very smart. He jabbed Lennox Lewis right in the chest. Right in the chest.
And a double jab there by Holyfield. Off the round 1 results, you get the impression it's a better Holyfield already than was the case in New York.
Lennox Lewis has got to keep his reluctancy that he had in the original bout. He wasn't overconfident. He just used his jab. Let the right hand flow.
Lewis trying to drop the right hand in on top of the left jab.
Go home. Break, step back easy.
Holyfield partially blocking it with the left glove.
The more minutes that Evander Holyfield stay close to Lennox Lewis, the better.
Where do you start out? Two jabs. Two jabs every time you jab him. Two jabs. And throw that overhand right on him. He's leaning back. Don't go straight in. Always on that. Give him a little feint first. A little bit of water.
Because he's wide open for underneath shots. Instead of trying to chop over top, touch him and starts trying to rip him underneath, and you're tying him up perfect. Okay.
Man, get that jab going. Get the jab.
Well, everybody, the whole crowd is into his head tonight. So when you got the whole crowd is into it. Got the mouthpiece? Mouthpiece.
I got mouthpiece. Get that jab going, man. Get the jab going. Let him control it. Control it with the jab.
Holyfield with the CompuBox edge in jabs in the first round, landing 8 to Lewis's 3. Lennox wasn't really snapping the jab as he did early in the fight in New York. Now he sticks it out there with a little bit more authority to start round number 2. But Holyfield comes back, and you see Holyfield listening to Don Turner's instruction. Throw the jab twice when you throw it. Double up.
Well, he wanted him to throw the jab twice because if he misses, Lewis is not able to hit him with a jab. So you throw 2 to make the big man back up. If you miss him, he'll at least back up.
Hard punch by Lewis inside.
Let go, keep it clean.
The question is whether Holyfield trying to come in is on a suicide mission, or is he going to get to Lewis?
Evander's reaching out hard already. That's what he shouldn't be doing. He should be throwing uppercuts to Lennox Lewis, elbows, uppercuts to his chest.
And Lewis, who said he would be conscious of trying to be aggressive and take advantage of knockout opportunities, is trying to load the right hand. Probably not a good idea for him.
Well, he's like Larry said earlier, he threw a lot of good right hands in the first fight, but they were nothing that hit him square right, hit Evander square in the middle of the face. Always on the side of the head.
Step back. Step back, step back.
This fight, Lewis got to concentrate on going right down the middle with that right hand.
Uppercut by Lewis as Evander jumps in with the jab. Lewis double jab.
That's what you don't want at this part of the fight, is allowing Lewis to get confident with his left jab.
You, if you're Holyfield, you mean?
Yeah, if you're Holyfield, you don't want him to get confidence with that left jab. He's dropping his left hand, make him do it lower by hitting him in the body a time or 2.
Turner asked Holyfield to throw the overhand right. Evander hasn't released it. Lewis has released his right hand aggressively 3 times in this round.
Evander throws the overhand right. He has to make contact with the left hand first.
Left hook to the body, one of Holyfield's better weapons over the years.
Step back easy, step
Well,
back.
you know, Holyfield's brain trust wanted him to have twice the activity of the first fight. He hasn't shown that kind of energy yet.
Now, the Everlast gloves are not bad. When Holyfield puts his hand behind his ear, he still have a little extra padding. The Everlast glove suits him better. You're not going to see a good, clean knockout with them, but they really act as good padding for blocking shots.
In his great rematch performances in the past, Evander Holyfield was able to throw a lot of punches in situations where he could attack.
Now, Lewis got Holyfield's got Lewis dropping his hand, looking. Now, Holyfield has the advantage. He can throw his jab now.
But his punch count is dropping off again, George. He's just not releasing his hands and throwing as much as he needs to be the aggressor.
Yeah, he's dropping his hand. That means you can beat him to the punch because the big guy has to bring him up and throw.
That round looked much like the rounds in the first fight.
Speed's the name of the game. Don't hesitate, champ. Give me some Vaseline. Straight. Here. Don't get flat-footed. Any more? No. Give me some water.
Holyfield throwing many more punches than in the first 2 rounds, but still fewer than 30 punches per round.
Jab into the chest,
Not enough.
to the shoulder, takes his right hand away. They're trying to hit you with a right uppercut coming in.
Inside, lets Lewis come up with a nice uppercut. Later on, good body shots by Holyfield.
But overall CompuBox numbers in round 2, Holyfield 6 out of 24, Lewis 13 out of 47, including 9 of 30 jabs. Those numbers, as you said, Larry, very much like what we saw throughout the fight in New York.
I could be mistaken about this, but Holyfield in his corner looks weary somehow. I don't see any energy. His body language is not lively. That could change, you know, in 5 seconds. But that's the impression one gets from him.
And now, just as was the case in New York, Lennox Lewis able to stick the jab in Holyfield's face repeatedly and start to set up power shots. Uppercut landed again.
As said, Evander's advantage if Lewis continues to throw these uppercuts because he drops his knees. He bends his knees to throw his uppercut.
But he's got to get off, George. He's just not getting off.
As soon as he bends, Holyfield's got to jump in with a left hook. Let me tell you, he can buy something tonight. Doesn't matter if you hit him or not, just jump in with a left hook.
Lewis backs into a corner on his own and then ties Holyfield up momentarily. Halpern separates them. Lewis walks out of the corner. Lewis lands a little left hook.
And combinations. Now this is unusual for Lewis to be the better combination puncher.
Now there's a triple jab from Holyfield and he sticks with it. That's one thing you said before the fight, George. If he gets into punching range, he's got to stay there and try to do some work.
And don't allow this guy to get the distance again.
Right hand lands on a counter for Lewis.
One of the things that Holyfield observed after the first fight was that Lewis was punching, as he put it, at the target instead of through the target, meaning he wasn't loading up for big punches, and that doesn't give him time to reply as he would like.
Well, that's part of Lewis's basic cautiousness.
Now, Holyfield was able to get in some good body shots here and there. This fight goes into the 7th round. That can change things, too. He was able to jab Lennox Lewis in the chest. He didn't do that last time.
So you're suggesting that you like a lot of what Evander's doing so
I like
far,
a lot of what he's doing. He's invested in the body, even jab to the chest. I don't like him standing there getting those jabs, but when he's not in range, get all the way out of the range, which he should be doing.
When you fought Holyfield, did you feel like he had effective head movement against your jab, George?
Yeah, it's a long, long time ago.
Yeah, that's right. Much has changed in the 8 years since April 9, 1991.
And that's why I named all my boys George, so I wouldn't have to remember anything.
Hard right hand by Holyfield. Cleanest punch of the bout so far.
And Lewis is getting in the kind of fight that Holyfield can benefit by. Standing close, trying to hit him back for hitting you. Don't do that if you're Lewis.
Greg, step back. Out the head. What's up there? Go.
Lewis is bending down.
And Holyfield landed the left hook.
Bending down.
Round 3 had some moments for Evander.
If you got to just keep him back on your jab, you get lazy, don't let him get too close. Keep him back at the zone where you want to just relax. But you got to catch it with some shots from underneath here. Everything you're shooting is over top. Okay? You've got to get some shots from underneath. Get him back on the jab and keep him out there, but come with something underneath too, okay? You got to get some respect. You got to take it to him a little bit. Okay?
In the middle of the round, Holyfield lands a long right hand, no power on it because Lewis was backing up. But later on in the round, he did land a cleaner punch. Grazing punch there.
So there was some excitement in the third for Holyfield fans, but still, overall CompuBox numbers, Lewis threw more and landed more. Harold, how do you have it through 3?
I don't know, Jim. Evander Holyfield, I thought did enough to win the third round. He got inside, he wrapped him a couple of times real good. 2-1, 29-28, Lennox Lewis. Lennox looked real good with the jab. He was busier in the first 2. Evander, the good shots in round 3. So I gave him the third round, 2-1 Lewis.
Don Turner asked his fighter to go inside in this round. That's Evander Holyfield. So Turner apparently liked some of what he saw in round number 3. Another big right hand for Holyfield as Lewis misses with a left.
And Lewis want to keep this fight at a distance. You don't want to get it close. Lewis's corner told him to step up and take the fight to him. I wouldn't do that at this point. Keep this thing at range as long as you can.
Oh, it's a man's sport, George. Let them go in and bust each other a little bit.
Yeah, but the bigger guy, he looks bigger, but he's not all that big inside. He's a tall guy. When you see a good jab like that, that means that he doesn't like mixing it up.
Now, you pointed out that Lennox was bending forward in the last round. Why would he do that?
It was the first round that Holyfield made contact of equal range with him in height. Lewis started to bend down looking for that uppercut. I guess you go into training and you start thinking, I could have knocked him out if I had done this. But forget about that. Go back to what you did.
When Riddick Bowe, a taller man, leaned forward and agreed to exchange with Holyfield, Holyfield got chances to look good. In New York, Lennox Lewis simply wouldn't do that.
Now, every time that Evander gets close, he has to dive in. That's why they clinch. He's jumping in because of the distance. He can't get it.
And Lewis goes back to popping the jab in Holyfield's face.
And he can do that for about 2 or 3 rounds. You need not try to mix it up.
Lewis holding his left hand below his waist, inviting Holyfield to jab. Holyfield leaving the opportunity alone for the moment. Right hand over the top by Lewis. And Holyfield pounds to the ribcage as Lewis holds his arm.
Now, I haven't seen Evander do anything in this round, and we're 2 minutes and 15 seconds into it.
Lewis hasn't done a whole lot. He sits there and waits for 1 punch at a time.
Well, he's landed maybe 15 or 17 jabs.
Jabs score. Evander lands a right. Lewis lands a little right in return.
Lewis gets lazy and Evander Holyfield gets closer.
And Evander again jabbing to the body, something he did not try to do in the first fight.
Oh, I'm telling you, and it's paying off great dividends. Ooh, that right hand on the side of the head hurt.
Kind of slid past Evander's ear, though.
Yep.
4 rounds in the books. A couple of them tough rounds to score.
I know it's not, but it's out there. He do something big near the end of the round and excites the crowd.
He's trying to steal it.
He's trying to steal a round. But what you got to do, you got to take some aggressive stuff at him with some big shots without going over the top.
Yeah.
We keep telling you, come in underneath on the shot first. Even a simple jab, left uppercut, right hand would work. But come from underneath, you're doing everything over top. If you would really focus on your right hand and sit down and shoot the right hand straight, you could catch him with right hands. But you're trying to shoot your right hands too high. Slow down, get the right hand down here, shoot it short and set it straight, and you tighten up, okay?
Should you get around that, let go with the right hand.
Stay in the rhythm now.
Close your eyes and listen.
Stay close. When you get in close.
Don't go flat-footed now. Mouthpiece, don't go flat-footed.
Double jab, double jab, double jab.
Once again in round 4, Evander Holyfield only threw 30 punches. Lewis 49. But halfway through the between-round period, you saw the graphic that indicated Lewis has landed half as many jabs in the first 4 rounds here as he did in New York. So Holyfield, though not doing much more statistically than in New York, is much more in the fight here early on.
You know what? Good left hook.
Solid left hook by Holyfield. And Holyfield grinning as Lewis lands a big right hand. Both fighters have landed a big power shot in this round. And Halpern telling Holyfield to watch his head as Lewis goes under and then over with the right hand and almost throws Holyfield over the top rope.
Come here, come here, come here. The bullshit in here stops now. This isn't a wrestling match, it's a boxing match. Just keep this clean. You understand me?
And there's a cut
Go in this corner. Big
along
cut.
the right side.
Of Lewis's eye. He's not even aware of it.
It doesn't look dangerous, but you never know.
More an abrasion than a cut, according to Flip Pomansky, the doctor. Lewis wasn't aware of it. The blood does start to trickle outside his right eye as he goes back to the uppercut and busts Holyfield again. Lewis thinks he's got Holyfield going with these right hands.
Get back easy, hey. Come on, let's go.
British fans chanting for their man.
Lewis better get his hands up. Holyfield is doing a good job. Whenever he's close, he throws something. When the fighter's away, he doesn't do anything. When you're close, throw shots.
Lewis hasn't had his hands up for 8 years, George. He loves to fight this way, as do so many modern fighters.
And he's doing something he didn't do before. He's leaning forward a little bit, trying to get that uppercut.
Absolutely. He thinks he's got Holyfield going with his big right hand connects.
Holyfield is landing good left hooks.
Absolutely. 2 in this round. And the blood is flowing from Lewis's right eye. Outside the eye, as you can see, outside the orbital bone. Holyfield trying to make it a brawl. That would be to his advantage.
That's right. You want to keep it a brawl and make that big man keep. And the good thing about this, I didn't mention, Lewis has his cup a little lower. That's why Evander is able to go down and jab and hit him in the body a little better this time.
Good point, George. Big difference in the position of the protective cup. Lennox going to work with the uppercut again. Every time he does, he brings his head into buttable range for Holyfield.
Not only that, he gets himself in the range of getting hit himself.
Well, despite the blood, so far it's been a big round for Lewis.
Holyfield has got Lewis coming forward. That's what you want him to do. That's the only way you can bob and weave. You can't go forward bobbing and weaving.
But again, Evander goes 20, 30 seconds without throwing a punch, George. He's got to be more active.
Lewis goes to the body a little bit.
And Lewis looking to the body.
And then going up.
Look at me. All you got to do is get a little bit closer. A little bit closer.
That right hand is shooting just the way you're shooting, not that high. Shoot it straight inside. Catch it with that short right hand, okay? Your right hand is the key right now behind your left shot. The uppercut is good because it's getting his attention, but keep shooting the right hand. You shoot them right, but shoot them low. Don't shoot them high. Just what you're doing, banging out is keep shutting him in there. Shoot them real straight, real short.
Cut is nothing.
It's a good round for you.
Lennox Lewis's cut man, Al Gavin out of New York, is as good as anybody in the sport. Larry?
Leaping left. Right in here is where Holyfield and Lewis clashed heads. Lewis came out with a trickle of blood.
Round 6 of a scheduled 12.
Now that cut isn't so bad, but it sure does chink the what you call it, the shield of confidence.
Well, it gives Lewis something to think about, right?
And you don't want to be doing that when you go back to the corner. You want to think about how I'm going to get him the next round, not how blood is flowing. Holyfield has got his jab going better this time.
Holyfield averaging exactly 30 punches per round through the first 5. That's the same level of inactivity that hurt him in New York.
Good left jabs by Evander Holyfield.
He is making his punches count more tonight.
Going to the body. Going to the chest again.
And knocking Lewis off balance and knocking him back.
Going to the chest again. You cannot be allowed to be hit in the chest as a heavyweight.
Why, George?
It's just like someone taking sticking a syringe and just sucking all of your energy from you. And so many young fighters don't even understand that, so they allow guys to do it.
And now Holyfield goes upstairs with the jab. Evander's off to a positive start in round 6, commanding the first minute of the round with the jab. And Lewis has dropped into a stretch of inactivity himself.
Looking for a knockout. He trained for a knockout. Now he doesn't have no idea how to get back and get this thing in control.
Right hand by Lewis. Holyfield getting the guard up.
Oh, my goodness.
Why did Lewis do that?
Frustrated.
And the Boo Birds come out in the crowd. They want to see more activity.
Lewis thought all he would have to do is come out here, and it was all his for the taking. He had no idea he would have to fight for this title. That's what it's gotten to be. It's gotten to
So you think Lennox Lewis was that totally complacent coming into this fight?
Oh, no. Everybody told him, you won this fight. You should have knocked him out, and he forgot about it. He won it by good tactics. He had a good strategy going.
Well, so many times in Evander Holyfield's career, it's been easy to be misled into believing that it was over.
Those jabs to the chest, one after another. And I'm telling you, a knockout could follow those kind of punches. All he has to do, Evander, now is get in one left hook to the chin. This could be over.
Lewis headhunting in this round, concentrating on long right hands to Holyfield's head. Evander working to Lewis's body and stepping up the activity level in this round.
I don't
Lewis
think
is
that,
waiting and he's complaining.
I don't think that Holyfield's offense is bothering Lewis. It's the fact that he's harder to hit than he was in the first fight.
Oh, his offense is bothering him greatly. He's hitting him in the body, in the chest, things he didn't do last time.
Break, go. That's all you gotta ask yourself. Do not get flat-footed. Beautiful work. Get in close. Keep your arms close. Close. That's why he got to reach around you to hold you. And when he reaches around you, let go with a combination. And roll out. Then you hit him with the left hook.
Holding on to too much shit, let it go. And keep shooting the damn right hand straight. Those short right hands, I don't care if they miss, keep shooting them. Even if they go over the top of his head, it's wearing him down to tying him because you're so big. But you just cut off completely. It's the same way you lost some other one and get your ass in trouble on the damn scorecard because you're not fighting. It's not that he's doing nothing, he's doing better than you. You're waiting too damn much.
All right.
Let the shots go.
Right now.
And back with the jab, too.
Crazy moving and buff right or left and throw your foot. Stay off the ropes.
Right now, Lewis says, let's see if it's right now.
Round 7 of a scheduled 12.
Lewis played around and waited around too long, and he turned this thing into a fight. He didn't need to be in the fight.
And that was what Lennox Lewis was talking about, I guess, when he said right now, uppercut lands with thunder. Quickly, Harold Letterman, how you got it 3-6?
4 rounds to 2, 58-56, Lennox Lewis. I gave Evander Holyfield a 6th round because he was busier. There's no question, Lennox didn't punch, but he's punching this round.
Now Lennox fires the uppercut and throws Holyfield off and lands the uppercut again. He's just waiting on that uppercut now. Buster Douglas got himself knocked out against Evander Holyfield, trying to land an uppercut from distance.
All Evander is staying there in the pocket, weathering the storm, and anything that he can get in after the storm, he takes it. Lewis should be jabbing and making this a fight.
They both land uppercuts there. Holyfield with the right hand and Lewis with his own right hand.
Look,
big left hook by Holyfield.
They're head to head now, head to head.
Lewis is hurt. Now Lewis smiles as Holyfield comes in. Holyfield thinks he's got a target.
It was a left hook inside that hurt Lewis.
It was a big one. That left hook partially blocked by Lewis's right hand. Lennox leans against the ropes himself. Holyfield working the body. Lewis has decided that the uppercut is his bread and butter. Keeps coming back to it.
Lewis has no idea the effect of those jabs to the body and to the chest is taken on him. He has no idea.
Evander Holyfield with a better plan tonight. A little bit more energy. Not that big a difference, but enough to make it much more of a fight. And
That body shot hurt. That body shot hurt. Evander Holyfield landed a good body shot, and it hurt Lewis.
Hard left hook by Holyfield. Lewis stunned again. Lewis stands in. Holyfield fires back with the left hook. Holyfield, the quicker fighter, through the last minute and a half of round 7. Lewis almost casual with the uppercut. Big target there for Holyfield.
Emmanuel Stewart told him to go out and get at Holyfield, and this is the result. But here comes Lewis now.
Lewis rallying again. Combinations. Hard right hand by Holyfield. Lewis to the body. His own right hand lands flush. They trade shots at close range. Round 7, the best round. These two fighters have fought against each other in 2 fights. excitement.
How you feeling? You got to take your round now. You got to pick it up. Keep taking it to him now, okay? Keep taking it to him.
You don't want to angle.
I got it. Hold on.
What the referee about his head?
He's not going to say nothing about his head. You can forget that.
Cover his punches and work on him inside.
Early in the round, that left hook apparently discombobulated Lewis for a few seconds. He's holding on here. Later in the round, once again, Lewis coming back in the last 20 seconds of the round. And you heard Emanuel Stewart still thinks that the best fight for Lewis is to engage Holyfield right in the middle of the ring.
CompuBox numbers in round 7 virtually even. Lewis 20 of 39, Holyfield 21 out of 45. Letterman, as you saw, gave the round to Holyfield, probably because of the big left hook shots. Right hand lands for Lewis. Holyfield much more engaged, looking much more confident than at any point in New York. Lewis obviously much more conscious of wanting to knock his man out tonight, and therefore creating opportunities for Evander.
Lewis is looking strictly for a knockout. Evander Holyfield now, all he has to do is play off of that counter punch. Pull it on home.
Let's go.
Every landed punch but one in round 7 was a power shot.
There's that left jab to the body by Holyfield again. Left hook upstairs now.
Another left hook, and Lewis backs up and ducks. Fires a right hand back and goes to the body. Finally, Lewis begins to exercise the wisdom in trying to get to Holyfield's body and take some of the sap out of those punches.
Lewis is totally leaning forward now. He is into trouble. If only Holyfield could just muster up a little energy to throw a couple hooks.
This is the Lennox Lewis who fought Ray Mercer in Madison Square Garden. Tactically wrong, engaging in warfare, and trying to rise to the occasion against a fighter who likes to fight this way.
He has made up his mind, Lewis has, that he's going to fight.
Lewis getting smarter and going to the body.
You've got to land some punches to the body.
Where's the jab with which Lewis dominated the first fight? George did. Evander take it away with those jabs to the chest?
Yes, he did. Certainly did. Sucked the juice all out of that left jab. Now he's got a fighter the same size as him.
And it looks from time to time that Lewis is a tired fighter. When he went 10 rounds fighting this style against Mercer in Madison Square Garden, he was totally exhausted at the end.
Yep, and it was because of those body punches. And the bringing of that cup. That protective cup has been lowered. Holyfield got a green light to get down low.
So it's a much more even fight. But despite everything we're saying, Lewis has landed some shots in this round and may in fact be winning the round.
Let go, break, step, I'm in here.
He's got his hands low. Holyfield couldn't miss if he just jumped in a Floyd Patterson left hook.
Which he did right there.
Jump in.
Their heads come together again, and Lewis produces some good infighting as he drives Evander back to the ropes. Evander trying to flurry at the end of the round. Lewis blunted him there.
I don't know if they're getting it right this time, but they're certainly getting it right-turn.
It's on your feet. Come on.
Breathe deep.
Come on. Tim, you gotta cool him off. Put it on his head.
He's just weak. He's falling all over the place, but you're not pushing. Plenty of stiff jabs. You got to take it down the stretch now. We can't fuck around with no more of these rounds, man. The fight is close. The fight is definitely close. Okay, you got to take it to him. Push the jab. Push the jab hard. As like you said, push off on the right foot. Make sure you move his whole body with the jab. And then when you shoot that right hand, shoot it short. You're going to hit him with the right hand, but shoot it short. Just but throw it.
When you're outside, make sure you're far enough where it can't hit you. When you move inside, move in quick. Move in quick. Quick first step. Time to work,
Lennox Lewis asked by Emanuel Stewart to resurrect his jab. Stewart, as a trainer, has never lost a heavyweight title fight. Lennox Lewis has never knocked an opponent out past the 8th round. Holyfield has, and he goes for one here.
Holyfield was able to get in a double jab here, double jab there, make the guy wait for it, and then come over top with a right hand. He was able to do it great. That's the old boxing style.
I like what Lewis is doing to Holyfield's body. He's equalizing the momentum somewhat with that body attack. Stewart asking Lewis to try to set up a right hand with the jab.
Lewis just seems to need too much room to get his jab going.
Let go, break, step back.
You should jab. Don't wait to get in distance.
Lennox goes back to the uppercut. Evander whacks to the body again.
Break, no punch. I'm in here. Good.
Holyfield's eyes are clear. Not so with Lewis.
Holyfield looks like the fresher fighter. Lennox is still throwing more punches.
Lewis better keep his head up.
When Lewis was exhausted and in trouble against Mercer in Madison Square Garden in a very similar
what a
fight.
good left hook to the body by Evander Holyfield.
The Englishman showed courage and heart during the 10th round of the fight. Holyfield stepping it up again with that double pumping jab inside.
When Lewis jabs, it's a different fight, but when he stands there and waits for a big punch, Evander takes over.
Left hook to the body by Lewis. You don't see that very often.
He's going to have to do a lot of that.
It's not usually a weapon in his arsenal.
Let go, sit back. I'm in here.
Got to admit that Evander's been in with a lot of giants, and he's never backed down from a one.
Well, Evander Holyfield won't back down from anybody. Uppercut lands for Lewis. Holyfield misses the left hook. Lewis lands the uppercut again.
Holyfield might be hurt right here.
But will Lewis take advantage of it?
Multiple punches for Lewis. Holyfield not throwing back. Fires the right and drives Lewis into the ropes. Lennox goes back to the body and the uppercut. Thrashing Holyfield with power shots. Now Holyfield's going to try to flurry again to convince the judges he's won the round. It's a smart professional thing to do.
Holyfield is an excellent boxer. Knows what to do and when to do it.
Lewis got in a last shot, so Holyfield decided to fire a left hook after the bell.
Cool him down. Cool him down. Look ahead. Here we go. Baby. You can't rub his low back. Rub his back with eyes and eyes. You can't pull straight back.
It's a jab this round here now. That was yours. You won that, but that uppercut over here is what pulled it out, really. But use your damn jab this round. He's tired. Make him down.
Now let's see if we can catch that uppercut that hurt Holyfield right there. Lewis, big uppercut. Lewis trying to follow up.
If he'd had a left hook to follow with.
I have a question for you, George. When Lewis goes in and battles him, you say he should jab. When he doesn't battle him, you suggest he doesn't have the gumption or the courage to stand with him. Now, which is it? Because in the last few rounds, he stood right with Holyfield and gone. I mean, this is a common thing we hear about Lewis.
And one thing about Evander, when he protects himself, he puts his arm all the way behind his ear, so that's why he's able to get caught with uppercuts straight up the middle. Always put it behind his ear.
Harold Letterman, how do you have it through 9? 6'3" or 5'4"?
No, 6'3", 87-84 Lennox Lewis. I give Evander Holyfield around 6 and 7. He is making it close, but I got to tell you something, Jim. Judges very often look at a fighter's physical appearance, especially in close rounds. Evander looks like he's fresh, and in certain rounds, Lennox looks like he's dying. And that's what fools the judges. There's no question Lennox will land more punches and lose rounds because that mouth is wide open.
It's an interesting point, Harold, because I observed before that Holyfield
looked weary in the corner between rounds, and he does. But when he gets out here, he doesn't look weary, and that's where it counts.
Well, that's an exercise of will. 6-3 on Letterman's card. I'll bet you anything. There's at least one judge at ringside who has Holyfield ahead in the fight.
But I can tell you this, Larry, Lewis should not engage into these exchanges. It's no good. He doesn't need it. He has the reach. But Evander Holyfield, this benefits him. He should try to create as much of this as he can.
But he just landed another big right uppercut.
And then you say, George, that he doesn't have it inside when he does that.
No, he doesn't have it inside. That's why he shouldn't do it.
Straight right hand lands for Lewis. Evander not throwing right now. Lewis with 2 body shots. And Evander's left hook upstairs was blocked by Lewis, who looks tired, but still has the energy to fire the 2 body shots and block the left hand.
That's the good thing about training. Whenever Lewis moves to Evander's left, Evander can't get anything off. He just goes to his left, nothing.
Left hook lands for Lewis.
Oh, boy, that was some good clean left hook. I don't think it did a lot of damage, but it just landed. You know, earlier we've talked about the 4 pounds Lewis took off for this fight from the last fight, which indicates that he had trained hard. Well, he's going to need that kind of conditioning to get through these last
6 minutes.
6 minutes.
He's moving to Evander's left.
And that's where it will pay off if indeed that was an indication of his best conditioning.
Evander Holyfield didn't throw many punches in this 10th round. 6 minutes to go. It'll be the 11th time in Holyfield's career that he's been into the 2 championship rounds. Lewis, far less. It'll be his 3rd. 6, I mean.
We gonna win these 2 goddamn rounds.
You'll win it. Get that damn jab to working, baby. You get your jab to working and try them little short, straight right hand. But at least you shoot the right hand and hook behind it. What you need to do in your best punch, whenever you make your little fade off, you let them miss the same thing you did. And do that the 11th round like you did the last time. You let them miss a lot, step it up, but push it through after that. Okay? Push the damn right hand through.
11 and 12. Did you hear this?
You got 2 rounds, man. 2 rounds to get what means this much to you.
Combination punches on the inside, man.
You got to have faith in God that you can go out this 100% for 2 rounds, and you can do it. 100%. You're a workhorse. Let's go see it now. Don't take anything off. 3 minutes of work.
3 minutes of work. Let's go, buddy.
CompuBox numbers in round 10. Lewis landed 23 out of 44 punches. Holyfield 9 out of 34.
Does Holyfield have 6 intense minutes that his corner is asking him for?
He's got bounce in his feet at this point.
Yes. What a fighter this guy is.
Straight left for Holyfield. Lewis landed a right hand earlier.
I mean, he's 37 years old.
What a man he is.
37 years old and without a real big punch. You know, there have been older fighters that have done well because they had a big punch. But to work at the high energy level he needs to, because he's a small heavyweight, he's just a remarkable guy.
Holyfield busting Lewis to the body with the left hand and then trying to get upstairs. Holyfield showing much more energy here in the 11th than he showed in a seemingly weary round 10.
Ooh, good body shots by Lewis.
And a quick left hook inside by Lewis. Landed flush. Holyfield takes a punch so well.
When Lewis goes out and jab and steps around, he has this fight won. Whenever he takes his trainer's advice, getting in there, that's when things turn around.
All right, break, step back. Watch your head, watch your head. Step back, let go. Hey, step break, step back, let's go.
Well, Lewis is just standing on the mound, pitching now.
Break, let me here.
And when Holyfield comes forward, Lewis leans forward and pops him with that uppercut.
Well, he's on the mound like a pitcher, and he just stands there and does whatever he wants.
Ooh, hard left hook by Holyfield.
Break.
You heard Emmanuel Stewart a couple of rounds ago telling Lennox Lewis the fight is close. Don't mess around in there.
He stands on his mound, and those body shots hurt.
Right hand by Lewis. Holyfield misses his left.
Watch your hands. Break. Watch your hands.
Lewis is better try to put everything to rest and win this round.
Ooh. combination by Lewis. Holyfield lands a big right hand in return.
Easy, easy. Let go, step back. Let go, Evander.
You can believe when Evander gets hit, he's going to hit you back.
Closer than New York.
Let go, let go.
Much closer in terms of energy and the kind of effort the two fighters are putting forth. But still, Lewis throws more and lands more in almost every round.
Break. I'm in here, don't fight.
Will the judges see it that way? Blood on the bridge of Lewis's nose.
Let him up, don't punch.
The cut outside Lewis's eye from the butt early in the fight has never begun bleeding again. 4 punches land for Lewis. Holyfield can't get one in. Lewis jabbing and bouncing now. His energy coming back.
Let go. Let him up.
Yeah, Holyfield is cut.
Yep, blood on the left cheek of Evander Holyfield. Might have come from one of those right uppercuts.
One more round. That's not bad at all. 1 round to go. Hardly need to do anything with it.
Come on, let's cool him off real good.
Put your head on.
Last round, Evander,
Take
last
so much.
round.
You don't have to worry about holding nothing back. Let it go, okay? You got to fight, I believe, but I'm not sure. But you got to win this last round with it. You know what it did last time just to get a draw.
Gotta win it.
Okay, but you got to win.
Stay small and that's all you gotta do. You don't let him off the hook when you get him in trouble. You can do it. You let him out of
Real deep this round. Hit them comments.
Let's get up. Come on, let's get up. Let's get up. Come on.
We get ready for the 12th round. 3 points. Lennox Lewis has never lost a decision. Evander Holyfield has never had a 12th round knockout. And if Lewis wins, he's the first unified British heavyweight champion since Bob Fitzsimmons in 1897.
Let go. Last round. Come on.
Harold Letterman with Lewis ahead by 5. I'll bet you anything, all 3 official judges have it closer than that. Just a guess.
This has been a close fight.
I'm not saying I disagree with Harold's card. Just that I'm betting it's closer than that on the official
Vander's got
card.
some thunder on those punches, I'm telling you.
Watch your head.
Lewis just doesn't seem to respect Evander Holyfield's power. He hits him hard, he just drops his hand and walks right through it.
Let go.
What should the two fighters be doing in this round, George?
Evander's got to pull it out. He just can't sit there and box this round. He's got to fight. If ever you're going to fight, this is the fight of your life fight.
Lewis stuck the jab in Holyfield's mouth, then just missed with the right hand. Holyfield trying to put the pressure on. Uppercut lands for Evander. Lewis slightly staggered. Now he looks to land his right. Evander with a lot of energy here in the 12th. Lennox seeming to try to load one big shot. Now he goes back to the jab. Lewis throwing his punches sloppily here in the 12th round.
Head, that was your head going up. You okay? Go.
Minute and a half to go. Uppercut lands for Lewis. Crowd trying to chant Holyfield into yet another of his dramatic career moments. Holy, 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 they chant. Lewis trying to measure him in for an uppercut.
Lewis has got to fight. Just can't think about winning a decision.
This round is on the table for the taking. Nobody has made a big definitive statement in the first 2 minutes.
Don't punch. Keep it up in there.
If the fight is on the table here, if anything, Holyfield's had the better of it with sheer energy.
Lewis' corner told him, don't hold anything back.
He might not have anything to hold back.
Yeah, you always got something you wish you had done in the hotel room.
2 body shots by Holyfield. He sticks in a little uppercut. Lewis, in trying to land the one big shot, hasn't thrown enough punches in the 12th.
Lewis is holding on.
Right hand lands for Lewis.
Hits and
Again, he
holds.
ties Holyfield up inside. Lewis may think that he's won the fight and needs only to survive. We're going to find out in 5 more seconds of fighting. They fought a lot better fight this time, and the fans appreciate it.
I had Lewis winning the fight. Much better fight. Holyfield fought better. I thought Lewis won it.
You, George?
It was a close fight. And when you're in a close fight like that, you just got to wait for the judges.
Well, we already know who Harold Letterman thinks has won the fight. We'll get a look at his final scorecard in a few moments. In round 12, Holyfield landed 13 out of 46. Lewis landed 14 out of 35. So Evander was throwing more punches, and in the first minute of the round, he landed that right-hand shot and that left hook. And then later on in the round, a Holyfield uppercut landed flush. So even though the punch stat numbers were fairly even, and here's Tim Hallmark, Holyfield's longtime physical trainer, praying in Holyfield's corner during the course of that 12th round.
You just hope the judges are not swayed by what happened in the previous fight. Just score this fight the way it was tonight and the way it is tonight and forget about the past.
Do you have a winner in your head, George?
Yeah, it's a close fight this time. When a close fight, I'll go for either guy. But Holyfield did a lot better. If he had not had the stigma of that last fight, I think there wouldn't be any question that he could have pulled this off.
You think Holyfield might have won the fight, George?
If it had not been for the original thing, you see.
A lot of people think that the way the first thing went would redound to Holyfield's advantage. Harold, how did you score it?
Well, Jim, after 7, it was a close fight. 4 rounds to 3. But 8, 9, 10, 11 belonged to Lennox Lewis. He landed the punches. He threw the shots. Better, cleaner punches at 8, 9, 10, 11. Evander pulls out the 12th. 8 rounds to 4. 116, 112, Lennox Lewis.
All right, let's find out who really won it from Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight boxing crowns an undisputed heavyweight champion, as after 12 rounds of action we go to the scorecards with a unanimous decision. Here are the score totals. Judge at ringside, Jerry Roth, scores at 115 to 113. Judge Chuck Jompa scores at 116 to 112. Judge at ringside, Bill Graham, sees it 117 to 111. All three in favor of the winner and the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Lennox Lewis.
No, Lennox Lewis.
Fireworks,
had
confetti.
to be wondering why in the world would he be doing this fight in a second time anyway.
I think they got it right this time, George. I believe Lewis was the winner. I think that those scorecards, matching fairly closely the Harold Letterman scorecard, were faithful to the action in the fight. I think we can all be happy that we got legitimacy here tonight. And now let's go to Larry Merchant in the ring with the undisputed heavyweight champ.
All right, thank you, guys. Congratulations, Lennox. You had some anxious moments after this fight, understandably. What were you thinking about before they announced the decision?
Well, I was concerned because it went to the decision. I was really concerned because, you know, I realized that he wasn't doing any work in the beginning of the rounds, and he was trying to steal at the end of the round. So I didn't know what the judges were looking for. So I was trying to bide my time and score the points at the same time.
He hit you with more shots in this fight, some clean shots. In the middle of the fight, he seemed to daze you for a moment. Were you ever seriously hurt?
No, I wasn't hurt. I was just playing. I was playing because I wanted him to sap his energy a bit. And it worked for a couple because I realized he was breathing after that.
What did he do to make this a more difficult fight?
Well, you know, when I was jabbing him, he was just coming in with his head and trying to get in close with his head. So I was concerned about his head, at the same time backing up and trying to score my points.
So you were not able to control the fight with your jab as you did last time because he jabbed more, because he came inside more, and so you had to engage him in more exchanges in this fight?
Yeah, when I was exchanging with him, he was keeping his head low and he was coming in straight with his head straight. So it was hard for me to engage some shots. At sometimes I would just move him to the side and throw off a combination. I was trying to catch him with the jab as he was coming in.
As we're standing here, 6,500 British fans traveled 5,000 miles to witness this moment. What are you thinking about?
I'm thinking I've got to go on with all the belts, for real. With all these fans coming here to support me, I've got to pull it out. So I have to push myself and get in there and really, really dig down.
The first unified heavyweight champion from Britain in a century. What do you think this will do for your legacy as a fighter, for the respect you have tried to win over the last decade?
I think, I went through some trials and tribulations, and, enough people were trying to stop me. The Americans didn't want me to take it over the Atlantic to Britain, but I actually persevered and succeeded.
Will you come back to America to defend your title?
Yeah, because the money's big over here. I realize the casinos are paying big money, but, I might fight one fight over in Europe first and make everybody come over there.
What are you going to do to celebrate tonight?
I'm just going to chill out, really. I don't really overdo it. I know a lot of people are going to want to talk to me and see me, and I'm just going to relish the moment.
Thank you very much. We relish this fight.
Yes, big up IRFM, our crew. Big up. Yes.
Jim.
All right, Larry Merchant, part of the controversy after the first fight in New York was fueled by CompuBox numbers. So let's take a look at a statistical profile of this fight, not the be-all and end-all, because CompuBox can't measure how hard the punches are. But here are the numbers. Total punches, Holyfield landing similar numbers to those in New York, only a little bit higher in both categories, 137 out of 416. Lewis, not quite as good as in New York, but still with an edge over Holyfield. Jabs, Lewis's jab not nearly as apparent in this fight. Holyfield's jab much more apparent, particularly those which he threw to the body. And then we look at power punches, which doesn't mean they were bombs. It means that they were hooks, crosses, uppercuts, anything other than jabs. And Lewis with the edge there and a big edge in connect percentage over Holyfield. That in the end is probably what won him the fight. Let's go back to Larry Merchant.
All right, again, thank you, Jim. Evander, in those moments waiting for the decision after what happened in March, what were your thoughts at that time? Did you think you had won the fight, or did you just not know how the decision was going to go?
Well, the fact is, first of all, I want to thank the Lord, and He's good, His mercy. Lord give victory, and man give decision, but we have to live with Him. But in the front of the decision stuff, I did all that I could. I wasn't judging the fight. Like I said, my words don't twist. When things fall into the hands of the judges, the judge make a decision to who they want to give.
What do you believe in your heart, in your head, about the decision?
Well, it's hard to say. The fact is that, I go in there and I don't observe the fight. I do all that I can while I'm there.
How did you make this a more competitive fight than the last one in the eyes of many of us?
Well, the fact is that, I was able to take away the jab. I didn't get hurt by the jab. And I was able to engage the jab and to be able to know that, McCona tell me all he's trying to do is make you make the first move where he can just pop shots. And I was able to, count off his pop shots.
So did that mean that he had to come in and stand in exchange with you, which is what you wanted?
Well, he did, and
do you give him credit for that? Because you have said in the past, well, he might not be all that willing to exchange.
Well, the thing is that, Lennox, my whole thing, I'm always give the fighter that I fight credit. That man did all that he could. It's not like he have anything to do with the decision no more than the fight himself. And, he was able to come back when I hit him some shots. I felt that I heard him a few times. He's able to rattle back. As I feel that the fight was more of a competitive fight than the last fight.
Did his uppercuts hurt you because he seemed to throw a lot of them inside?
Well, no, because he was hitting me on the glove a lot of time, but with all this force, he gonna rise me up anyway. I have to go with it, like that. And he got some good shots in, but I'm just a big thing in life is that, you know, you give your all.
All right. Given that, do you feel good for yourself, even though you've lost the titles, that you gave everything you had, and after having said that in the last fight you couldn't?
Well, you know, the fact is that, you know, in the last fight I gave all I had, what I had that day, and I gave what I had today. And the fact of the matter is, you know, when it falls into the judge's hand, you have decisions.
Will you continue to fight?
Well, I don't know. Just like I said, I would have to go back. And pray about it, and you know, and see what I want to do.
Thank you. As always, Evander, class act, class fighter. You've been great.
Thank you.
To you, Jim.
Well, they promised better judging here in Nevada, and we got it. Unanimous decision from 3 top veteran judges, 115, 113, 117-11, 115, 113. Those scores pretty much in line, slightly closer in 2 instances, but pretty much in line with Harold Letterman's scorecard. Here's the great irony. In New York, Evander Holyfield got his draw by winning rounds 8, 9, 10, and 11 on all 3 scorecards. Lennox Lewis won this fight tonight by dominating rounds 8, 9, 10, and 11. George Foreman, there are a couple of obvious choices available for Lewis. The very obvious choice in his future is to go ahead and make money fighting the big, well-known retread heavyweight names. Great fighters, but guys whose careers are probably past them now. Holyfield, Tyson, that's where the money is. What would be better for the sport, I think, is if he moves it forward by fighting some of the young heavyweight contenders who have made their names and are ready. Michael Grant, David Tua in particular. What do you want to see him do?
Look, the whole world would like to see him fight Mike Tyson. Forget it. Just forget it.
It's a wipeout, George.
Don't even go that way.
Close.
Don't even go that way.
It wouldn't be close.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be a good fight. People would come out. This is prize.
I don't think it would be a good fight, but you can say it if you want.
Fighting. You don't fight for anything but those persons.
Okay, so you want to see him go for the money.
Yeah.
Okay.
You better believe it. When you start fighting for other stuff, you end up walking crooked, and you don't have anything to prove for it. Evander Holyfield put on a good fight tonight.
You want to see him fight Tyson and Holyfield before he fights Grant or Tua?
I don't know Grant. I know Tyson.
You don't know Grant. You've covered several of his fights.
Yeah, but you got to know him.
The public might not know him, but you've covered several of his fights, George.
Yeah.
Isn't he ready?
No.
Okay. I could not disagree with you more. Let's go back up to James Brown.
All right, Jim and George, and certainly from this layperson's perspective, style-wise, I thought Evander Holyfield immensely better. He did, in fact, press to fight Roy Jones as he said he would. Much more competitive fight this time, but give me your thoughts.
Well, this fight was different. This fight was something that was hard to call. That was a very difficult fight to call. Had a draw come out of this, I wouldn't have been mad about it because that was a tough fight to call. My hat goes off to Evander Holyfield. He made a lot of improvement. He made a lot of changes. He came out, gave up 25 pounds, and showed that he could make up for his mistake in the first fight. Lennox Lewis, on the other hand, made the same mistake in this fight that Evander made in the first fight.
Which was?
He tried to knock Evander out. And to me, he wasn't that impressive, and I thought the fight could have gone either way.
With that in mind, that Lewis wasn't that impressive because he was going for the knockout, strategically, tactically, what will Lewis have to improve on in order to reign as the undisputed champion for a while?
At 34 years old, he's not going to improve on much. He's a power puncher. He has to learn how to establish his range. Had he been able to establish his range, which means keep Holyfield out at a distance to where he could do damage with his best punches, then he would have been a lot better off tonight. He did do a good bit of damage with his uppercut, but it was just very far and few in between. So I like Lennox as a person. I like him as a boxer. I like to see him box. I'm very big fan of boxing. I'm glad that we do have a heavyweight champion, an undisputed heavyweight champion. I think this was an improvement from last fight because we did make an effort to make sure that somebody got a fair shake. And that's a fair shake to me because the fight could have went either way in anybody's mind, but it was a good fight, and we got the best judges here to do the best thing. So I think tonight was a very successful night for the heavyweight division.
That was going to be my final question. You are okay with the decision tonight?
Very much so. I'm okay with it.
All right, there are now 2 undisputed champions in boxing, Roy Jones Jr. and Lennox Lewis. All right, folks, earlier in the evening, we told you how you could score Holyfield versus Lewis online, round by round, by logging on to sports.excite.com. Here are the results from you, our unofficial judges. As we take a look at it, indeed, you felt the same as the judges, that Lennox Lewis won tonight's fight over Evander Holyfield. So your eyes were as good as the judges. 7 rounds to 5. Lewis over Holyfield. Holyfield versus Lewis was brought to you by Budweiser, the undisputed, undefeated king of beers. This Bud's for you. Excite.com. Tape up, weigh in, and log on. Caesar's Palace, the home of champions. Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino, the most exciting destination in Las Vegas. TVKO, pay-per-view entertainment from HBO. And finally, we'd like to thank the following magazine partners. So for Jim Lampley, Larry Merchant, George Foreman, Roy Jones Jr., Nick Charles, and Harold Letterman, this is James Brown saying so long from the Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. The executive producer of TVKO is Ross Greenberg. Tonight's broadcast was produced by Rick Bernstein and directed by Mark Payton. Feature producer, Thomas Odefeld. Associate producers, Betsy Aronin and Michael J. Whalen. Assistant to the producer, Matt Boland. The production manager, John McCallie. The technical supervisor, Bob Hunter. And the technical director, Douglas Getz. This has been a presentation of TVKO, pay-per-view from HBO.
Rounds, Emmanuel Stewart, and tell me, what were you telling him each time he came to your corner?
Well, basically, he won the first part of the fight with his jab, and I was telling him to get back to the jabs, and I saw that he really was enjoying standing toe-to-toe the last rounds, but his physical strength was enough where he was still winning the fight. So I would just let him do what he was doing. I just think he's just physically a little too big for Evander, and Evander was a much more intense fighter this fight and fought with a lot more determination, but Lennox is too big and still a little too talented for him. In particular, the left jab early in the fight was a big factor. He got a lot of points ahead. And Evander's best advantage was when he scored flurries near the end of the round. But for the most part, a keen observer would see that Lennox was busier throughout the whole fight. And as a result, it was not a great performance necessarily by neither one of them. But I think it's a fight that was a fair decision.
This fight did not go the way you anticipated it would. You were really hoping that Lewis would assert himself and show us once and for all that he was the dominant heavyweight.
I definitely felt that Lennox should have scored a knockout possibly, but a win is a win. I would rather have a decision win than a lose a fight. But I was wanting to be a little bit more aggressive, but he didn't, but he won the fight. And I was impressed with him standing toe-to-toe at a lot of exchanges, which I had never saw him do before.
Were you concerned as the fight got later that it was going to be a close fight and that the scorecards could determine it and you could wind up with a draw or worse?
I was definitely concerned about the fight being very close going down the stretch. What was interesting to me between rounds, Lennox was completely relaxed, totally aware of everything, and really wasn't even exhausted. But he would fight like he was tired or sometimes like he was hurt, but he was very relaxed, and I felt that he would handle the fight going down the stretch if he had to win a decision.
In your opinion, if Lennox Lewis is the best heavyweight in the world, is the heavyweight division in good shape or is the heavyweight division in trouble?
The heavyweight division right now, I don't see it as being that strong. Lennox, even winning the fight, really didn't demonstrate a lot of things that he's capable of doing either. It really wasn't a good, solid fight compared to like when Ali and I would say even right now, Larry Holmes, those guys was dominating. Lennox won the fight, but it was not a really super impressive fight.
How do you feel about Lennox at this point in terms of his legacy? I mean, you always wanted him to have the dominant performance.
Lennox still has not gained that performance that would give him that great performance in history where people would look up to him. He still has a lot of work to do.
Emmanuel, do you think that Evander Holyfield should get out of the fight game after this performance?
I don't know. Evander Holyfield did not look that bad. It's just Lennox Lewis's style is just so difficult for him because Evander traditionally has always had problems with big fighters, and Lennox Lewis fought him as a big fighter, using his arms, pushing him. Maybe with a smaller fighter, Evander could still fight effectively.
Okay. As you said before the fight, a good big man can take care of a good little man. Thank you, Emmanuel Stewart, for the time. The trainer of Lennox Lewis, now back to you.
All right, thanks a lot. Here along with John Saraceno and Al Bernstein. And, well, even his own trainer says he could have done a lot more, Al.
You know, in a world of spin doctors, God bless Emmanuel Stewart. He's the most honest man in boxing, maybe in any sport. He admitted it wasn't a great fight. He admitted his man didn't fight quite as well as he could have. But he said, my guy won because he threw more punches. The most amazing thing was that he said that his guy looked relaxed and good in between rounds, just a little exhausted during the fight.
Well, his honesty is to be applauded because Emmanuel Stewart's not going to try to pull the wool over our eyes. He knows we saw the same thing he saw, and that is a guy, Lennox Lewis, who doesn't really want to be in there being all that aggressive. He's not a tiger. He's got to be prodded to really turn it on, and tonight he did just enough, really, to beat Evander Holyfield.
Well, through 11 rounds, we had Lennox Lewis ahead 107-102. Evander Holyfield had to know the last round he needed a knockout. We take a look now at some stills from the final round as we go into round number 12, Al.
This was probably Evander Holyfield's best round of the fight other than the 6th and 7th rounds. He got Lewis on the inside a lot and was cautioned again by Mitch Halpern for using his head. Halpern never took a point away from him, and finally at the end, Lewis held his hands aloft, though, and Holyfield did not.
And we take a look at the score panel again, folks. Lennox Lewis defeats Evander Holyfield. Lewis improves to 35-1-1, and this is huge across the drink. First unified heavyweight champ from Britain since Bob Fitzsimmons in 1897. And guys, I got to ask you, Al, is it the fault of Lennox Lewis that he doesn't do all those extra things? I mean, as far as going in there, as you say, being a tiger, I mean, does that take away from his overall ability to be recognized as the toughest man in the world?
Yeah, I guess it does. And here's what Lennox Lewis is, and I think this is really a realistic way to look at him. He did a lot of good things in this fight. He threw great uppercuts, threw some good body shots. At times, his jab was very scintillating. It was straight, but then there were other times when he had these huge lapses. Lennox Lewis is about 70% to where he needs to be as a fighter, and at this moment, that's enough to beat, apparently, all the heavyweights out there, at least all the ones he's fought.
So, Al, does he get any new fans, though? If you weren't a Lennox Lewis fan going in?
He might have lost one in me. I mean, I picked Lewis to win the fight by decision, luckily. But you know what? He didn't win me over at all tonight. He looked like the old Lennox Lewis to me. Punching off his wrong foot, stumbling around, having to be coaxed by his trainer round after round to get out there and be aggressive. If Lennox Lewis is the best heavyweight in the world, this is some world right now. He's got to have to step up his attack to really be lauded as the premier heavyweight he thinks he is.
John's a tough crowd.
Well, a lot of money out there for fighters, and I think the fans and the boxing public like to see guys work very, very hard for their money. We will have much more from here at the Thomas & Mack Center. Again, Lennox Lewis, the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. For John Saraceno and Al Bernstein, I'm Andre Aldridge. We send it back to the studio now.
Thank you, gentlemen. We will have much more on the fight. The new champ, undisputed champion of the world, it is Lennox Lewis.
Far as about 48.
Not only in his boxing personality to the public, but also just his character with the fans, I think.
Well, Emmanuel Stewart, go hit the shower as you did your work tonight.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Okay, we'll see you up the trail, of course. Emmanuel Stewart, the trainer of the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Lennox Lewis. Now back to you, fellas.
Okay, Nick, thank you very much. And Steve Farhood, let's talk about the job that Emmanuel Stewart did with Lennox Lewis. We talked a lot about the rematch being set and how both fighters have had good success after losing fights and then coming back in rematches. Holyfield's been terrific in any case, coming back for rematches, but this time something different. How did Emmanuel Stewart get his man prepared for what he was challenged with tonight?
Well, I don't think it was really up to Lewis to do too much different from the first fight. He was in such control.
It's an interesting match. I think Emanuel Stewart is the best trainer in boxing. I don't think he's a good match for Lennox Lewis. Emanuel is an offensive trainer. He loves guys who are aggressive. Lennox Lewis is not aggressive by nature. Emanuel wants a fire from Lennox Lewis. It just isn't there. And in that sense, I don't know if they're a good match, Fred.
Well, in this fight, speaking of that, you think about two heavyweights, two warriors in there, no knockdowns.
Right.
You had a couple of guys get stung. Again, Holyfield sent back wobbling to his corner in the 9th round, but no real power out there tonight, I don't think.
Well, Lennox couldn't land his overhand right, his straight right. Evander's a little too quick to get caught with that punch. And Evander had to lunge a lot to try to reach Lennox. Although I thought Evander definitely hurt Lennox Lewis in the 7th round. This was really two different fights. I think 1 through 6, Lennox boxed a lot like he did in Madison Square Garden. Once he got hurt in the 7th round, it was a different fight. His hands dropped. He fought the remainder of the fight with his left hand by his side, and his legs and his punches didn't look as crisp. And I thought from that point on, I thought he was going to get stopped. But then he came back in the 9th.
He came back in the 9th. But, when you look at Lennox Lewis as a fighter with all the tools and with the prohibitive reach advantage, I guess people were kind of expecting to see more damage done with the jab out there, and they didn't seem to have that crispness.
Well, he paused a lot with the jab, Fred. He flicks it, and it's also looking to set up the right hand. And the right hand, the overhand right or the straight right, in Lennox Lewis's case tonight, it wasn't there. And the fact that he won this fight really without that punch is pretty miraculous, because that's his power shot. You take that shot away, he doesn't have that much, outside of the right uppercut, which landed effectively. But he's a good puncher, but he doesn't look to maximize his opportunities to land his big punches.
Well, Nick talked to Emanuel about the future of his fighter. When we come back, among the things we'll discuss is the future of Evander Holyfield at this point, 37 years of age and beltless. We'll be back with much more from Las Vegas right after this. Stay with us.
To you, this is more than a flight. It's a mission. Your mission. And that's something we respect.
$2908.
There's a man who lives across the alley. I watch him from my window. I fear his knowledge is bigger than mine. I must watch more RPM tonight. I must watch more RPM tonight.
Celtics and the Bulls got together, and the Bulls, 1-point winner. Boston has handed both Detroit and Chicago their first wins of the year. And meanwhile, the Rockets and Warriors going at it. It is into the 4th, and you see the Rockets with the advantage in this one by 11. Golden State won its first game Friday against Vancouver. Houston won its first game Friday against the Lakers. Bucks and Cavs, a special night in Cleveland. Former Cav great Mark Price getting his jersey retired. 4th quarter, 112-110 Cavs. Ray Allen hits for 2 of his 22, and we're tied at 112 after a couple of Sean Kemp free throws. Cavs up 2. Last shot for the Bucks. 6 seconds to go. Sam Cassell, the inbound. And he is stripped by Bobby Sura, his former college teammate. Take another look. Sura. Nice mitts. He also had 23 points, and the Cavs win it 117-112. Other NBA action, Pacers over the Wizards, 105-83. Jalen Rose scoring 16 points, one of 7 Pacers in double figures. And the Heat beat the Mavs, as you see. Jamal Mashburn, 34 points on 13 of 19 shooting. The Mavs dropped 15 straight in this series. College football, Texas Tech at number 10, Texas, 2nd quarter, 7-0. College football for you, number 11, Marshall at Western Michigan, 3rd quarter, and Chad Pennington. The man can throw. With the sun behind him, nice grab by James Williams for the touchdown, and the Herd roll through 21-10 at that point, and then Pennington on the screen to Lanier Washington. 339 yards for Pennington. Marshall, a 31-17 victor. Number 12, BYU at Wyoming, 17-10 Cowboys in the 3rd. Jay Stoner for Coffee Shuck. 22 yards on the real thing, and Wyoming pulls off the win, 31-17. Stay with us. There's much more ahead here on ESPN News. Our top stories not far away. A great day for the Great Dane. Stay with us.
Sometimes the job calls for more than just one screwdriver, but you're not exactly sure which ones you need. That's why Sears created the Craftsman all-in-one screwdriver. It has 6 full-size Craftsman quality screwdriver blades built into the handle, 3 slotted and 3 Phillips head blades in the sizes you use them most. Need a different blade? A quick change couldn't be easier. The compact size fits just about anywhere. Almost everyone has a kitchen drawer.
Didn't look at all, shot out there, as Frank Maloney mentioned a moment ago. But what is his future right now? Steve, let's start with you.
Well, I felt that if Evander won this fight, he was certainly going to fight on. I see no reason to think he's going to stop. He'll fight on. He'll fight again. And I think the public sentiment might demand a third fight between these guys. Lewis may not want to hear that. He may say, well, look, I want a unanimous decision. There's no reason. I've beaten him twice, in essence. But I do think there'll be a call, at least, from a part of the public for a third fight.
Nick, in your opinion, your many conversations with Evander Holyfield, we'll get back to Nick in just a moment, but, we've seen Evander Holyfield close up being in Atlanta, Georgia, and he's one of these guys that simply does not have a whole lot of quit in him, and I think you're absolutely right. I think he will be back for more. But I'm interested to see what kind of complexion the heavyweight division is going to take on as we turn the page and move on into the next millennium.
Well, Fred, this was a good night for the heavyweight division in that we had a pretty decent fight. It was a lot better fight than we had at Madison Square Garden. Some of the fans aren't going to love the decision. We have a unified heavyweight champion. That's very important. And Evander Holyfield certainly acquitted himself wonderfully, showed why he's the warrior he is. He's probably still the heavyweight of the 90s. He'll be back. There's no reason to think he's going to quit. And the heavyweight division needs a young guy to come along now, because Lennox Lewis isn't that young, let's face it. We need a young guy. Maybe these Klitschko guys from the Ukraine could be the guys.
Yeah.
We need some fresh faces. Michael Grant next week faces Golota. Hopefully he'll win impressively. We need some fresh blood in the division.
Well, we're going to take a break and come back with much more. We've yet to hear from the principals here, including Evander Holyfield and the new undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Lennox Lewis. Much more from Vegas coming up.
Is back, and the songs that made his film so great are now available on one entirely new CD. Nobody does it better. Carly Simon. For Your Eyes Only, Sheena Easton. Live and Let Die, Paul McCartney.
Now you can celebrate the New York Yankees' 25th World Championship with Sports Illustrated's exclusive World Series Championship Package. You'll get the official Major League Baseball World Series video and this hardbound collector's edition of Sports Illustrated free with your paid subscription. Lead off with your official 1999 World Series video and relive all the moments that made the '99 Fall Classic unforgettable. Call now and you'll also get this special edition Sports Illustrated issue with expanded World Series coverage. It's hardbound, gold-lettered, and individually numbered. Both are free when you order 54 issues of Sports Illustrated for only $1.47 an issue. Save 50% off the cover price. Use your credit card and you'll also get this wool blend, fully embroidered 1999 Yankees World Championship commemorative cap free. Celebrate the legendary New York Yankees' 25th World Championship with Sports Illustrated. Get into it.
And welcome back to Las Vegas. Fred Hickman along with Steve Farhood, Nick Charles inside. Lennox Lewis, the new undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. The exit poll for the people coming out of the Thomas and Mack split. Right down the middle, as you might well imagine. But getting back to the situation we have in the heavyweight division right now, the health of the division overall? What's your opinion about that, Steve?
I think it's a lot healthier right now than it was before tonight. You know, you can't win sometimes in boxing, and boxing does shoot itself in the foot a lot, but also it's the victim a lot. And what we saw tonight, there are going to be people complaining about this decision, Fred, that this was, you know, an unfair decision. And if it went the other way, we would be hearing that Don King controls the judges, and he always wins. How does boxing win? It doesn't.
Well, 8 months ago in New York, we heard the outcry for at least fairness, you know, on the part of the judges after the draw. Now, what is the public sentiment going to be? What is the public going to be clamoring for?
I think they're going to ask for a third fight between these guys. I really do. I think that Lewis's victory, which he didn't get in March, was clear. Lewis's victory tonight was unclear, and it certainly wasn't a 6-point fight. No way in the world. I don't think anyone that we were sitting with watching the fight had it that margin. So 6 points, 4 points, no way. It was a close fight. I had Holyfield winning by a point. I'm not going to call it a robbery, but anytime you have a guy by a point, you can't call it a robbery. But the public may want to see this again because it was a close fight.
Well, I think the public also, I don't know if you got the same feeling, but there was a little bit more of an excitement, a little bit more of an anticipation, more of what we're used to seeing for a heavyweight championship fight as the guys were entering the ring tonight.
Oh, yeah, the atmosphere was great, and I really think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that 6,000 British were over here. That adds a lot. You heard the alternating chants between Holyfield and Lewis. That was great. USA, etc., little ethnic country, national rivalry here. And a quick historical note here, too, there's precedent. Jersey Joe Walcott fought Ezra Charles twice, lost to him twice. He got a third opportunity. What did he do? He knocked Ezra Charles out, became heavyweight champion. So Holyfield now has really lost twice to Lewis, in essence. Maybe he'll get it right the third time.
No, and we like the rivalry here. There seems to be a real kinship that's, it's a strange kinship, but a kinship that's developed between these two fighters.
Well, yeah, anytime two fighters fight 24 rounds, maybe they'll fight 36, but anytime they fight 24 rounds, we see certain patterns develop. This fight, Lewis did a lot more holding than last time, but again, it's a classic matchup physically of big man against little man. Big man looking to extend the 84-inch reach, keep the fight outside. Little man looking to get in close with the left hook. In that sense, it'll always be a good matchup, Fred.
From a technical standpoint, before we go to break, let's talk a little bit about Evander Holyfield's jab. Just in case the folks were watching at home on the pay-per-view telecast, it continues to amaze me how this guy with the prohibitive reach disadvantage was able to get to the target with that left jab of his.
He did, and he did not do that at all the first fight. That was one of the things he did better this time. He did a lot better, a lot more better this time than he did the first time. But that jab was good, and over the second half of the fight, he probably jabbed evenly with Lennox Lewis. I don't think Lewis's jab was much of a factor because he was pushing the jab the second half of the fight, and it was nowhere near the factor that it was in Madison Square Garden.
Okay, standing by. We'll see. Are we about ready to go back inside, fellas? Okay, we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back with more from Las Vegas. We've yet to hear from the new champion. We've yet to hear from the challenger, all the different principals. Steve Farhood, Nick Charles, and I will have lots more to come right after this.
My name's Anthony Sullivan, and here's another great invention for around the house. It's called the Tap Light. Just tap, and you've got light. Tap Light conveniently sits or mounts anywhere. You can wall mount tap lights as well for places where you need just a little extra illumination but don't have a light fixture, like this closet. Tap Light gives you the right light where and when you want it, and use it to illuminate a dark stairwell or provide light for an outdoor party or walkway. Tap Light can even replace a broken interior light in a car and is safer than candles for a storm that knocks out the power supply. Similar lights cost up to $10 each. Call now and you'll get 4 Tap Lights for $19.95. But if you call in the next 10 minutes as part of this special introductory offer, we'll include an extra 2 Tap Lights free. That's 6 Tap Lights for $19.95. So call the number on the bottom of your screen right now.
Remember, call in the next 10 minutes to get 6 Tap Lights for the amazing price of only $19.95. This offer won't last. Have your credit card ready. Call 1-800-306-0404. That's 1-800-306-0404.
This is CNN Sports Illustrated, the sports news network.
Thinking about hair loss? Well, now there are more options available to men experiencing hair loss than ever before. Millions of men have already started using them, so what are you waiting for? Call 1-888-2MERC3 to learn more about an FDA-approved hair loss treatment and about a special money-saving offer. or call your doctor to discuss which treatment is best for you. The sooner you make an appointment to see your doctor, the better. Call 1-888 clinically proven hair loss treatment and about a special money-saving offer. Stop just thinking about it. Call today. Merck, helping make hair loss history.
This is CNN Sports Illustrated.
Okay, you may wonder why this man is smiling. He lost the fight. Did you think you won it, Evander?
Well, I didn't lose. I gave my all. And, I didn't get the decision. I just said I didn't get the decision. But, I thank the Lord because the Lord give victory. I can hold my head up and I can be happy about the performance that I put on, and I could be happy for, for what Lennox got. So regardless to, I got a good, upright spirit, and I'm not sad, I'm not bitter, and life goes on.
When you were sitting in that ring waiting for the announcement and you heard a unanimous decision and you started hearing the numbers tumble out, what were you thinking?
Well, the fact is that, I said, well, I beat him that bad. And that's when I realized I beat him that bad. He appeared to be disappointed when he heard the number. He heard the numbers. He was like, oh my goodness, like that. But decisions that the judges make, they make decisions how they feel.
You violated his space. You had to do it. How did you do it?
Well, it's hard to say. One thing is that listen to my corner, trying to do the things that my corner said. I was able to take a jab away from him, make him lead with right hands, and I was able to counter him. I thank the Lord for my corner. My corner was able to bring something different. I was able to follow the direction of my corner, and so we happy. We didn't get the decision, but when we can walk out, proud that it wasn't all in vain.
Best round of the fight, the 7th. Can you take us through that? Talk about ebb and flow.
Well, I really, it's hard for me to tell you what happened in the 7th round. I was fighting and I really wasn't observant. And so until I go back and look at the fight for real, the only thing is that I'm in there, I'm doing things, and I'm not keeping count of the punches and who winning and all this. I'm trying to do all that I can.
You soaked up shots. You showed tremendous fighting spirit. Why wasn't it enough?
You got to ask why wasn't enough for the judges. We are people, and people have their own variance to who they think won, and that's what they felt the decision for him, and I have to just move on.
Do you want a rematch?
Well, I don't know. I have to go back and pray about it and see what the next thing that I do.
Could be retirement, could be fight on?
Well, I'm saying, either or. And so, right now I couldn't actually say which one I'm going to do.
Evander Holyfield will walk out of this building without his heavyweight championship belts, but has left the door open that he could be back. That's it, Fred.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick. And Evander, Evander's always been a gracious champion on victory and in defeat. There's no question about that. But let's go back, Steve Farhood, a little bit to that 7th round. The guys were talking about that a moment ago, and that was the round where Evander Holyfield did some damage to Lennox Lewis and actually started smiling at some point. It was as though he smelled the blood.
Yeah, indeed. For the first 6 rounds of this fight, I thought that it was an even fight. I had it 3-3 at that point. But not a particularly exciting fight. So really not all that different from what we saw in New York. Then the 7th round, Evander clearly hurt Lennox Lewis. Emmanuel Stewart said before Lennox was not hurt. Do we have...
Yeah, we've got Don Turner down there with Nick Charles.
Thought.
Let's go on down and we'll finish that thought in just a moment. Nick, please.
Okay, we're with Don Turner. Can you hear me, Fred? Okay, we're live with Don Turner. Don, who won the fight?
Well, you heard the decision. The judges say that Lewis won the fight. I didn't think he had won. I knew it was a very close fight. It was a very difficult fight to score. A guy that's a fighter look at a fight different from a guy that's not a fighter. And neither one of the judges probably was fighters. So you got the decision.
You had to take away his space. You had to make it an inside game. You did it by out-jabbing him at times, double jab. You did it with the angles. And you took away his punching room. What else? Take us through the fight. What was working, what wasn't?
Well, we knew that he had to, either when he was outside, he had to stay far away from the guy, either he had to duck. You know, a couple of times when he ducked, he didn't punch. But we knew that it's easy to take care of a jab, very easy. You know, Kenny Weldon and myself worked on the angles. You know, Kenny worked with the pads very well, showed him how to step around to the side and punch him with the right hands, you know. And the punches that, you know, I know what the judge was scoring those uppercuts, but he never hit him clean with an uppercut. You know, maybe one time when he was pulling out, I think it was the 9th round. But other than that, he didn't hit him with uppercuts. He blocked every one of them.
You know, as the fight started to swing a little in Evander's favor, what was happening? Left hook was landing, things like that. He was hitting, the jab was going to the chest. It looked like Lewis was really the deader fighter at that time, and Evander was much fresher.
Well,
why couldn't he close the show?
Well, Lewis is a very cagey guy. You know, he know how to hold. He's a very strong guy. Every time he got hurt, he got out of harm's way. He grabbed him. He pushed him. You know, one time he tried to push him out of it. But that's all in the fight game. You're supposed to do everything you can to win.
You know, 2 champions. It's a great game. It's a tough game. But clearly, personally, Don Turner, how disappointed are you?
Very. You know, I just hate to lose. You know, I'm not an emotional guy, but I'm hurting.
Would you suggest to Evander he fight this guy again?
Well, it's strictly up to our team. We all get together, we talk about it. You know, it's not my decision to make by myself. You know, it's not any one person's decision. Ultimately, the decision is up to Evander.
But based on what you saw tonight, this is not some shot fighter who should put him away, the gloves for good.
Well, you know, before the fight, you know, there was some pretty bad things written about Evander, pretty bad things said about Evander. I knew all the time he's not a shot fighter. Nobody in the history of the game has given so many great fights. Nobody in the history of this game has did what he's done at the age of 37 years old. You know, he is not shot. You saw it clearly tonight. He's a competitor. He fought the guy who ultimately won the heavyweight title, and he just didn't fight an up-and-coming kid. He fought a real good fighter.
You know, Michael Grant's next. You're going to be in that corner in a week. What about that one?
Well,
no rest for the weary, Don.
Like I told you before, I hope Galata hits him low right away. Then you'll see a fighter.
Okay. Don Turner, thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. The future of the heavyweight division possibly in the hands of his other fighter, Michael Grant. That's the story to the moment, but our coverage will continue from Las Vegas right after this. Stay with us.
The Dark Angel is loose from his prison!
Where the hell are you going?
Save the world.
That's true. Evander Holyfield in his prime would have probably beaten this Lennox Lewis. He certainly would have beaten him. This Evander Holyfield couldn't beat him. I think it's really time for Evander to step aside and say goodbye to a sport that he's given a lot to and has given him a lot.
Well, John, even for his best fans, Lennox Lewis has to be a frustrating fighter to watch. Do you agree with that?
Well, he's even a frustrating fighter to fight because, as you can see early on in the fight, he wasn't doing a whole lot. And really, Holyfield cooperated. He made it a lot easier for Lennox Lewis. But the thing with Lennox Lewis is, if he's the best heavyweight in the world right now, we're in trouble.
All right, you're exactly right. We're much more coming up from Las Vegas, so you don't want to go anywhere. As soon as the fighters become available, we will have sound from them and much, much more. So Lennox Lewis, the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, we send it back to the studio now.
Thanks, guys. Last year, Arkansas... I'm running out in the...
Mexico country has its own low rate.
What about France? France.
Same low rate as France.
Great. I'm going to go call France.
Which is right near France.
7 cents to Canada and great rates around the world. Call 1-800-4-WIN-RATE to enroll.
Residence Inn College Game Night is presented by Residence Inn by Marriott. Room to relax, room to work, room to breathe. And in part by the Delta Faucet Company. Delta, the faucet.
Once again, Sports Center just moments away. David Lloyd, Betsy Ross, and there they are, moments away, getting ready. They're going to be throwing it out to Andre Aldridge. Al Bernstein and John Saraceno get the latest on the one heavyweight champion of the world. We're here still on the Residence Inn College Game Night. Time for the awards ceremonies. And we're going to start off, Coach. You have a game ball, helmet, stickers, or awards.
After Riddick Bowe pulled off the feet in this very same building, the Thomas and Mack Center. Hello, everyone. I'm joined by Al Bernstein and John Saraceno, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, now Lennox Lewis, who scores a unanimous decision against Evander Holyfield. Not a scintillating fight, but again, we have something better than we did 8 months ago at Madison Square Garden.
Well, you know, it wasn't the great heavyweight fight that we hoped would close out the millennium. Lennox Lewis wasn't as good strategically or technically as he was in the first fight, but he threw and landed more punches than Evander Holyfield and basically got the job done. And guess what? The judges were paying attention, and they made it the right decision.
Al, he's going to have to do a lot more to prove to me he's the best heavyweight in the world. The division right now doesn't have a lot out there, but Lennox Lewis, who has talked or hinted about retirement, I wondered where his head was tonight. And physically looked very lethargic, did a lot of wrong things, but caught Evander Holyfield at the right time in 1999 when Holyfield's 37 years old.
Well, you're very right there, and as you said, both fighters come out looking very, very tired and lethargic. We take a look at round two and some stills for you right here, Al.
As we take a look at round two, early in the bout, Lennox Lewis was able to get some good shots in. The uppercut became a big weapon, and the jab was very important for him. So early on, Lewis did establish the jab, though it would be sporadic throughout the fight.
In the third round, Al, this would be Lennox Lewis's round, although Evander Holyfield would close the round very strong with a big right hand, nailing Lewis, but lost two of the three judges' cards did Holyfield.
And as we head into round five, Holyfield would get off to a good start in this round, but it didn't last very long because here's Lewis landing some very big right hands. It became a war in this round. Then the action got ugly. Both fighters ended up very nearly going out of the ring. Holyfield was warned for using his head, which he did in that round. It created a cut over the right eye of Lewis. This round was kind of exciting.
Al, Holyfield, sensing Lewis might be vulnerable in the seventh round, had his best round of the fight, nailing Lennox Lewis with a left hook, hurting Lennox Lewis, wobbling him as Holyfield dominates the round, winning it on all three judges' cards.
Now, as we head into round 9, this would arguably be the most exciting round of the 24 that these two fighters have fought. Lewis got in some big shots using right hands, uppercuts, still mixing in the jab, and going to work on Holyfield's body. This was a wild round.
And Lewis had landed 50 more punches through 10 rounds of this fight as opposed to the first fight.
By the 11th round, more of the same from Lennox Lewis. That strong left jab that he dominated early with and closed the show strong with, sweeping the judges' scorecards in the 11th round.
And in the 12th round, ironically, Evander Holyfield did very well. A very lethargic Lennox Lewis came out for the 12th round, looking as tired as you could possibly imagine. Holyfield took the action to him, but didn't really have enough to be dominant in that round. Got cautioned by Mitch Halpern again for using his head, and at the end of the fight, it was Lennox Lewis who looked more like the winner and thought he won this fight.
Well, now we want to get the thoughts of the brand new undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. We want to go downstairs to the fourth member of our team, Mark Schwartz, who's standing by with Lennox Lewis.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Lennox Lewis. Lennox, how different was this fight as opposed to how you expected it might go with Holyfield?
You know, I realize it's going to be always tougher the second time because a man has a time to train for you. You know, I felt good in there. It was a great fight, and, you know, I hope the people got what they wanted.
Did the people get what they want? Did the people get to see you with a pace, tempo, and a destructive instinct that was what people were hoping to see from you in this fight?
Well, you know, styles make fights, and this was a particular different fight. Styles kind of clashed a bit. Evander Holyfield definitely used his head in there, and, you know, I was able to adapt in there and bring the fight through.
You doubled up on the jab a little bit, but you never really were able to hurt him quite as much with the right hand. Tell me about what you were thinking.
He was aware of the right hand, but in the later rounds I started going to the body, and I realized that I sapped his energy a bit, and that's when I took over.
You fought now 24 rounds against Evander Holyfield, and again, it came down to the scorecards, which is something I think you were trying to avoid in this fight, right?
It was, but you know, you got to remember Evander Holyfield's been in there with everybody, and he's a true veteran. It's time for him to retire.
Is it time for him to retire? Why do you say that?
You know, he's been in it a long time, and he basically he was a spent man in the late rounds.
Could the Evander Holyfield in his prime have beaten you, given your performance tonight?
No. I don't think so.
Why do you say that?
Because that's what I say. That's what I believe.
Did you feel that you established something with boxing fans tonight? Did you feel like you established that Lennox Lewis truly is the dominant heavyweight champion? Because even your trainer, Emmanuel Stewart, said, you know, he didn't really get the knockout. He didn't do what I was hoping he would do.
You know, every time you go in there expecting to knock a person out, it never really comes in. You know, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to knock Evander Holyfield out. I wanted it to be a great fight, but you know, what can you do? I made sure that I went in there and I was there. He should have tried to knock me out. He couldn't knock me out.
He felt that when the decision was about to come, that you were concerned whether you would even have won the fight. Were you worried what the judges were going to say?
Going through it one time and realizing that, you know, you never know what judges are looking for, and what happened the first time, obviously I was concerned. I didn't want it to happen again.
What will be next for you, having defeated Holyfield now?
I'll take on all comers. I'm undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Don't get no bigger than this, and I feel good about it.
What's better for you, winning the $15 million or winning the undisputed heavyweight championship?
Definitely undisputed, because you go down in the history books forever.
Thank you, Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis, now the undisputed heavyweight champion. Andre, back to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Mark. And you see, no knockdowns, no knockouts, but a unanimous decision for the man from Great Britain. Becomes the first heavyweight champ unified from that country since Bob Fitzsimmons in 1897. Mark Schwartz also talked to Evander Holyfield after the contest.
Well, you know, I really didn't have a mindset. One thing is that, I wanted to control the fight, make sure I didn't get hit by the jab and all that. And, I'm doing what McConnell asked me to do, and the fight turned out the way it was.
You really did do some damage in the middle of the fight. You felt like you started to come on in the 6th and the 7th round, but then the fight seemed to turn his way strongly after that. What happened?
Well, I don't know what happened. I wasn't observing the fight. I was just in the fight, giving my all, and, until I watched the fight, it's hard for me to say what I did, so much of what he did. The big thing is when things fall into the judge's hand, then you get a decision from the judges.
In your opinion, if Lennox Lewis is the best heavyweight in the world, is the heavyweight division in good shape, or is the heavyweight division in trouble?
The heavyweight division right now, I don't see it as being that strong. Lennox, even winning the fight, really didn't demonstrate a lot of things that he's capable of doing either. It really wasn't a good, solid fight compared to like when Ali and I would say even right now Larry Holmes, those guys was dominating. Lennox won the fight, but it was not a really super impressive fight.
Well, we take a closer look at the judges' scorecards. Jerry Roth had it 115-113 for Lennox Lewis. Chuck Joppa had it 116-112, the same way that ESPN scored the fight. And Bill Graham had it 117-111. Let's take a closer look at the punch numbers and the punches thrown and punches landed. Amazing in this situation in that, well, Lennox Lewis lands just 58 more punches than Evander Holyfield in this fight. Seemed to dominate. He landed 218 more in the first fight, and that one was ruled a draw. How about the jab stats, too? Well, we take a look at those also, and jabs thrown and jabs connected, and Lennox Lewis lands 76. Evander Holyfield also not jabbing an awful lot. 52 jabs landed in this fight. And now we want to throw this around with Al Bernstein and John Saraceno. And even Emmanuel Stewart talks about his fighter. And you saw the jab numbers that he wasn't that strong.
You know, in an age of spin doctors, God bless Emmanuel Stewart. He is about as honest a guy as you ever see in the world of boxing. And that was pretty much an honest assessment. A little disappointment on his part over what Lennox Lewis did. I think Emmanuel Stewart really thinks there's still one great performance in Lennox Lewis, and he still wants to get it out of him, John.
When's he going to get it, Al? You know, Emmanuel Stewart ran the Kronk Gym for many years, still does in Detroit, a place where tough fighters are made. Hilmer Kenty, Tommy Hearns, Milton McCrory, guys that were ferocious. Before the fight, Emmanuel Stewart said he wanted to his fighter to be like a cat, and he wanted Holyfield to be the mouse. He wanted him to pick him up by the neck and throw him around the room. He toyed with Evander Holyfield. He didn't do any of that tonight. I think the disappointment was etched on Emanuel Stewart's face.
Well, not a great performance and not a great fight, but thank goodness, as you said, the judges score the fight the right way. We'll have much more from here in Las Vegas. For Al Bernstein and John Saraceno, I'm Andre Aldridge.